Everyone who's watching this in the outer web world of internet. This is the Mendocino Historical Review Board meeting of September 13th, 2021. My name is Ian Roth. I'm the chair. I'm calling the order at 2:01 p.m. Planner Cherry, can you read the participation information for this virtual meeting, please?
Sure. Just take me one moment. I'm sorry.
Not a problem.
The Mendocino Historical Review Board meetings are teleconferenced and are not available in-person public participation pursuant to State Executive Order N2920. Meetings are live streamed and available for viewing on Mendocino County YouTube webpage at www.youtube.com/Mendocino County Video. In order to minimize the risk of exposure during the public health order, members of the public may participate in meetings by emailing comments to pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.org or participate orally via telecomment in lieu of personal attendance. All public comments will be made immediately available to the board, staff, and the general public as they are received and processed by staff. Written comments can be viewed on Mendocino Historical Review Board meeting webpage. Requests to participate orally via telecomment must have been received by 10 a.m. this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you please conduct roll call?
Certainly. Chair Roth.
Present.
Vice Chair Kapler.
Holm, you're muted.
Okay. Board Member Allen Saunders.
Here.
And Board Member Madrigal.
Present.
And then also I'll note that Planner Mark Kleiser and Commission Services Supervisor James Feenan, along with myself, Juliana Cherry, are present.
And Board Member Kapler is here unmuted.
Yes, here, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. For the record. So has the determination of legal notice, has proper notice been established for the meeting?
Yes, proper notice has been established for the meeting.
Thank you. It brings us to agenda item number 4. We have 3 sets of meeting minutes. Any comments for the May 3rd minutes?
Yeah, I had some comments on item 4B of the May 3rd minutes. It says just unanimously approved by voice vote. I think it should read minutes approved with amendments by voice vote. I remember that we corrected the date of the meeting, and also we added a sentence to item 9B there indicating that the applicant's agent stated that there would be no solar panels on the main building. So there was an amendment, and I think that should be noted in the meeting minutes.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
No, not for me.
Anyone else have any comments? Okay, I have one. Under 10B, the last paragraph, review board action. Review board member Madrigal move to approve MHRB 2021-006 with the addition of condition 13. So I got a little bit of heartburn over this because without any references to what condition 13 is, we have no idea what that's referring to. So can we amend 10B with board action to include either a summary of condition 13 or verbatim, whichever is easier?
Staff can add the language.
Okay, and can you remind us what condition 13 might have been?
I can look that up and read it to you. But I can't do that at this very moment.
That's fine. That's fine. At some point during the meeting, that'd be great. That's the only comment I have. Motion to approve minutes from May 3rd, 2021 as amended.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Is there a
I'll
second?
Yeah, I'll
All
second.
all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 That would be unanimous approval. Thank you. July 12th minutes. Any comments, corrections?
I noticed I got promoted to vice chair on section 10.
Yes.
Don't you want that?
No, I'm happy for home to do it.
Okay.
We can correct that. That was my one comment.
So that'd be board member Saunders on
Yeah.
10A.
No, that should have been Vice Chair Kapler, not Saunders.
So Holm, was it you're mentioning of concerns about the outdoor dining tents?
Yeah,
Okay. So I guess
Yeah,
10A.
at some point I did as well, so that's why I thought it was me, but yeah. Anyway, okay, no, it's fine.
So maybe what we do is so board member Saunders, that third paragraph, is that accurate? We had a conversation with Ryan Rhodes.
Yes,
Okay. So maybe what we can do is we can change the first paragraph to say Vice Chair Kapler, and then add to board member Saunders' information is an inquiry as well about the temporary outdoor dining tents in town. Is that
Yep.
appropriate?
that's accurate. Yep.
Okay.
and then on 11B, I just noticed there's a word there. Let's see.
Yes.
Where is it?
It's
There's
a
a typo
directorian.
there. Yeah, that's the one. I think it probably should say direction.
I agree. One other minor grammatical, if you go to 11C, it's on the third, it's the third from the last line, it has applicants with an apostrophe, which shouldn't be possessive. Planner Cherry, can you see what I'm talking about?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay. And I'm going to back up a bit on 9B. Review board action. Did we actually continue the project to August 2nd, or do we continue it until we can get materials to review?
It was continued, I believe, to December, the December meeting.
So can we update that?
Yeah. But this is the July meeting minutes where it was continued to August 2nd.
Right.
And then at the August
Okay.
2nd meeting, we
Right.
continued it to December.
Thank you for the clarification. Board member Madrigal, do you have any?
No, I think you guys got it.
Okay. Another thing, I just to be consistent, and I'm just wondering if this is again the same sort of thing I just brought up before. At the very beginning, before roll call to order, it says draft minutes may be approved, possibly with corrections at should be the September 13th meeting instead of the August 2nd.
Right. Thank you for
Okay.
that.
Sure, that's what we're here for. Entertain a motion to approve meetings as amended, meeting minutes as amended.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Second. Thank you. All in favor with voice vote?
Aye.
Any opposing? Great. All right. Going to the August 2nd minutes. Any corrections, amendments, additions? Okay. I do have a question on page 5 under 11B. Planner Cherry staff to return, presenter Planner Cherry staff to return to next meeting with additional information on the use of porta potties in Mendocino, as well as the expiration date on urgency ordinances. Are we going to have information on that?
Yes, it's under matters from staff.
Okay, so I saw the expiration date on urgency ordinances, that will include the use of porta potties as well?
I believe there's a second item under matters from staff about porta potties.
Great. So I'm not hearing any corrections. Do we have a motion to approve the August 2nd minutes as presented?
Also move.
Second? Anyone?
I'll second.
Thank you. Voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Got through the minutes. Yay! Okay. Agenda item number 5, correspondence. Do we have any correspondence that have been received for items not on the posted agenda?
We have not, we have received comments, but they are for items that are on the agenda. We have not received correspondence for other matters.
Great. Thank you so much. So agenda item number 6, report from the chair. I can read what was said in the last few meetings. I am encouraging persons to volunteer and join the review board as a 5th board member. And thank you, board member Kapler, for joining us. That means you've been reappointed and you've done your notarization oath, right?
Yes, indeed. It wasn't easy, but I did it.
Thank you for your service. And to staff, I believe that my reappointment, I guess I have to go through that, or what does that entail?
I believe you need to work with the clerk of the Board of Supervisors to take care of that. Planning staff is not involved in that.
Gotcha. Thank you. That's all I have. Agenda item number 7, public expression. Review board welcomes participation. Comment should be limited to 3 minutes per person and not more than 10 minutes for subsequent agenda item so that everyone may be heard. Public expression items are limited to matter under the jurisdiction of the review board and that are not on today's meeting agenda, and items that were not previously considered by the review board. I believe there's none, but in the future, if you request to speak under public expression, please call in now. Thank you for your understanding in the public health order, and thank you for your continued interest. And to encourage public participation, we're going to set aside 3 minutes to receive public expression comments via email. Please send your comments to PBS, that's Public Building Services, PBS commissions@mendocinocounty.org. Do we have any requests for telecomment under public expression? At this point, we do not, correct?
I haven't received anything.
So let's put a 3-minute timer on and give the public a chance to respond if they're interested.
I'll do that.
Thank you.
There's 1 minute remaining. Seconds remaining.
Thank you. Have we received any comments?
I did not receive anything in the email.
Thank you so much for helping us out there. Agenda item number 8 is consent calendar, which we do not have any items on the calendar. So we're going to go to our regular calendar, starting with 9A. Case number MHRB 2021-0012 Roads Residence. This is a Mendocino Historic Review Board permit request to construct a new 2-story house with detached garage at 45091 Calpella Street in Mendocino. The property fronts Calpella, Ford, and Ukiah Streets. Planner Cherry, can you present the application, please?
Certainly. Thank you. This is an application for a new 2-story single-family home with a detached garage. It's on a property that fronts 3 of the public streets in Mendocino. It's directly east of the post office on the currently vacant land there. The applicant, the staff report includes things like setbacks, and the applicant requests an approval for concurrent variance. Staff is in support of this, as concurrent variances can help achieve one of the goals in the town plan regarding having open space. Often our setbacks encourage residents to be located plunk in the middle of the lot. And our goals within the town plan are to have larger yard areas between the homes. And so the applicant asks to have a 10-foot setback rather than a 20-foot setback from Ford Street. Because the property fronts public streets on 3 of its 4 sides, all of those sides are considered front yards. So the reduction of the front yard along Ford Street from 20 to 10 feet is what's asked for. Staff did include an additional finding C, in support of the concurrent variance, if that's something that the review board would like to approve. So it is a proposal for a 2,539 square foot home. The structure does include a screened-in porch that faces south, covered patios, and the garage is detached. There are skylights on the roof that face, the skylights face east, or the other homes on this Capella Street, and there's also a proposal for 2 light tubes on the east side of the roof. On September 3rd, the review boards met individually with the applicant to look at some material samples and to talk about the proposed project, the single-family home. And we talked about, many of the review boards asked about the skylights and where they would be located and what the light tubes might be illuminating in the interior of the home. This morning, the applicant did submit a revision to their proposed application. They are now proposing that all of the aluminum clad windows and doors be made of wood material, lacking that aluminum cladding, and that they would be painted the Benjamin Moore color, that trim color that's proposed, which I believe is stone cloud gray or gray cloud stone, something like that. Condition 13 was included in the staff report, and staff doesn't feel that that particular condition which covers the windows would need any amendment unless the review board chose to. Condition 13 reads, all exterior doors and window frames shall be made from wood. Window frames shall be painted Benjamin Moore color 2140-40, storm cloud gray. Windows shall be truly divided lights, single pane picture windows, horizontal awning windows, sliding windows, and windows with horizontally oriented panes are not appropriate. Metal doors and sliding glass doors are unacceptable. Since I am reading condition 13, I just briefly would like to go over some of the recommended conditions, beginning with 10 addresses outdoor lighting. We do look to have outdoor lighting be shielded and not a source of glare. Condition 11 reviews the exterior building materials. The applicant is proposing a gray cedar shingles and painted board and batten. Condition 12 specifies the paint color as storm cloud gray. This color is not part of the historic collection or the off-white collection, but the applicant can certainly ask for a color for the review board's consideration. Condition 14 would require that a propane tank not be visible from the street. It could either be stored underground or screened with fencing and located behind either the garage or the house. A wood cabinet is required to obscure views of electric meters. You often see this throughout town, or you actually don't see electric meters across town because they are obscured by usually a wood cabinet of some sort. Condition 16 would require that the fences be made from wood and also list the types of fencing material that's not acceptable. It's my understanding that the applicant would like to do a picket fence. There is a walkway proposed between Ford Street and the front door. So condition 17 is recommended by staff that the surfaces be of brick, flagstone, board, or grass and gravel, that asphalt and concrete is not acceptable, and major coverage of front yard setback areas is not allowed and shall be limited to those areas appropriate as shown on the site plan. Condition 18, there is the possibility in putting in the driveway along Capella, or putting in the sidewalk on Ford, that an encroachment permit from Mendocino County Department of Transportation may be required. And this gives notice to the property owner about that. And then the last two conditions would need to be completed prior to the issuance of the building permit. To construct a single family home in the town of Mendocino, property owners need to obtain either a categorical exclusion from a coastal permit or a coastal development permit. And condition 20, because this is the construction of a single family home, we do want to allow some flexibility because there can be some minor changes to projects as they go through the building permit process. We've had some discussions about that this year with the review board. So we want to lend that opportunity with the construction of a single family home, that if there are changes at the time of building permit review, may be required by the chief building official, that the applicant can certainly come back to the review board for them to consider whether those changes are consistent with the decision that the review board makes on this permit request, or the review board could direct them that the changes are not compatible or consistent with their previous decision. Then they would come back with a new MHRB application. So it is a single family home. We have received numerous comments. I would suggest not reading it into the record, but just to note that we have received comments from, off the top of my head, Mackenzie Sky Schmidt, Robert Schmidt, Kathleen Cameron, Garnish Daly, Arlo Reeves, and there's one that I'm forgetting.
Lee Edmondson and
Perlman.
Perlman.
Right, Lee Edmondson, and Perlman actually is in response to comments. Perlman is Jonathan Perlman, the applicant's architect, and he has provided a response to some of the comments from Mackenzie Sky Schmidt and Robert Schmidt. So I am available should you have questions. I do understand that the applicant's architect has a presentation and likely to share some visual aspects of the project with you. I'd like to conclude with a reminder that each of the review board members has been to the site about 10 days ago, and they met with the applicant and discussed some of the building materials as well as the site plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Chair. I appreciate that. Before I turn this over to the applicants, I see an email that was forwarded from Planner Cherry from Jonathan Perlman, who says that they have decided to eliminate the aluminum clad windows, go with painted wood windows. I heard in the staff report that they are including the doors as well, and I just want that to be a little bit of clarification.
Right. So I did prepare a memo on this topic, and it is posted to the website. And in my presentation, I did mention it as well. The applicant is no longer proposing any material to be clad with aluminum. So all of the doors would be wood, and they would be painted the gray color proposed. And all of the windows would also be wood frame windows with true divided lights, where divided lights are proposed. And the trim color of the windows would also be the gray color proposed. Staff wrote a condition number 13 as a recommended condition for project approval. And the revised project would satisfy that condition 13. We don't see any need to change the conditions as originally recommended in the staff report.
Great, thank you. So do we have the applicants and or the architects available to make that presentation?
Perlman available.
Jonathan Perlman? Great. Please present the project, Mr. Perlman.
Can you hear me? Yes, you can.
Yes, we can.
Great. Good afternoon. My name is Jonathan Perlman. I have Lisa Rhodes, who's the homeowner, and she wants to make a statement. And then I have a presentation, so I don't know if you can set it up so that I can share it from my computer. Is that something that can be done?
You should be able to share from your computer.
And we'll accommodate as needed, so please proceed.
Okay, so is this can you see this now, the presentation?
No.
Yeah, how do I don't have the typical buttons that say share screen. So, oh, good.
So on the bottom middle of your screen,
Yes.
there should be a green button.
All
Also,
it says is raise hand. I mean, I use Zoom all the time, so I'm very familiar with the procedure, but all it says is raise hand.
all right.
Oh, no.
It's possible that,
What
you
I
know,
can
we
do.
receive a link, that allows us to do that.
Oh, there we
Whereas-
go.
Right.
Join
I
us.
just promoted him to a panelist so he could share.
All right.
Thank you. And Mr. Perlman, you are muted. There you go.
All right. So Lisa Rhodes wanted to make a statement before I talk about the project specifics.
Good
Thank you.
afternoon, everyone. I'm Lisa Rhodes and the property owner of Calpella. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Along with my husband, Michael, unfortunately is not here and traveling in the East Coast right now, but I'm privileged to present our proposal for developing our lot across from the post office. We currently reside in Healdsburg, where I've done 3 historic restorations, including Craftsman, Queen Anne, and California Bungalow. As such, I'm experienced with designing period-appropriate properties which comply with local design requirements of historic communities like the Mendocino Township. We very much want to be seen as contributing to the historic charm and character of the township and look forward to agreeing on a development plan that the entire community can be proud of. Our trips to the coast from Healdsburg, particularly on those very hot summer days, led us to fall in love with the Mendocino landscape and seascape. We look forward to being able to call it home soon. Our particular project posed some challenges given the fact that we border 3 streets, each of which triggers a setback, and the archaeological area on the northeast corner of Calpella, which we've tried to avoid altogether. After getting feedback last week, we agreed to adopt all painted wood windows. We tried to be thoughtful about our design elements by making sure that we were seen in homes and buildings nearby. Things like gables, dormers, shingles, roof lines, and the board and batten style. My husband also has spent time talking with our members of our water agreement regarding the shared well. I'm happy to report that recent hydrological testing shows the well is functioning well and has the same water depth as 30 years ago. Yay. In Healdsburg, we are operating under very strict water rationing, so we are sensitive to the need to make sure that the aquifer can handle our proposed development. We appreciate how special the Mendocino Township is. We appreciate that community members are always legitimately concerned about any proposed development to make sure that it adds to rather than detract from the historical personality of the township. That said, we hope that we don't receive too many headwinds. There comes a point where criticism turns from being constructive to being unwelcoming. I hope we won't face that here. I would submit that the community will benefit from seeing our lot developed as we proposed, rather than just having it follow for years on end. Thank you for hearing me out, and I welcome your feedback.
Okay,
Thank you.
well, thank you. So I'll do a brief presentation because most of you know the project. The site, as most of you know already, you probably know it significantly better than I. The upper left hand is from the looking southwest from Calpella Street. The one on the upper right is looking southeast from the corner of Ford and Calpella. The one at the bottom, obviously, is the corner of Ukiah and Ford, because the sign is there, and the other one is standing on Ukiah looking north across the site. When we started designing, we were looking for inspiration in town, and we were looking at houses that are within eyesight of the property, and noticed the consistent 2-story forms, the multiple gables, cross gables, gable dormers, the board and batten and shingle materials, all contributed to our thoughts about how to design this house. So the site is set up, in this case, Ford Street on the bottom, Calpella on the left, Ukiah on the right. It is a long and narrow site, and as Ms. Cherry said, that we have 3 fronts, so we end up losing a significant amount of area to setbacks. And then also on the northeast corner, we have this archaeological protected area that kind of clips in some of the square footage of the red. You can see the red line there is our prescribed setback area, buildable area. So we discussed the variance request. We think it's supported by a number of things. One is that the zoning requires a minimum lot size of 12,000 square feet. This lot is 9,634 square feet, so we're already smaller than a standard lot. The uniqueness of being on 3 streets, requiring 3 front setbacks, the archaeological protected area, and that by asking for this 10-foot setback along Ford Street, we're much more consistent with the pattern of Ford Street, where as you go north on the same side of the street, the buildings are only set back 5 to 10 feet there. And the other thing to note is that we're not taking advantage of having a bigger building area because if you see the blue line, that's the same area as the buildable area, the red line. And all we've done is move the house up. So we're not adding any square footage more than we would have been allowed to within the buildable area. So we think that our request for the variance is well supported. The plans are long and linear. On the right, you can see the roof plan, which shows the gables with the separated garage as a separate building detached over here. Most of the living space is on the ground floor with a large living kitchen and dining area, 1 bedroom guest suite, the screened-in porch, and the second floor is fairly small with just a master bedroom. I guess I should say primary bedroom now, bedroom suite on the second floor. In terms of the elevations, the form, we believe the house is very consistent with the character-defining features of Mendocino homes. Its shingle style vocabulary is very period compatible. It's a 1- and 2-story linear form with a detached garage. We have simple gable forms. We have gable dormers. The building materials are weathered cedar shingles, painted board and batten siding, and asphalt shingle roofing. We have vertically oriented multi-pane windows. We have simple painted trim and ornament. We have a stained wood trellis that kind of connects the detached garage to the main house. And we have brick base elements out here by the garage, coming from Ford Street to the front porch. And then the porch interior and exterior landing will be of brick as well. So here's just the basics of the overall materials and the light fixtures. So they're all kind of a weathered, kind of muted color palette. Again, to keep in keeping with the feeling of the township. There were a number of comments and concerns about the house from the comments that we received last week. One of them, of course, was the aluminum clad windows, which we decided we wouldn't become the martyrs for, that we would eliminate them and go to the painted wood windows. There was a comment about having copper gutters and downspouts, and we're specifying the painted gutters and downspouts that is very consistent. I mean, I looked all over town and only found a few houses that had copper gutters and downspouts, where some of the most historic houses in town all have painted gutters and downspouts that match the trim of the buildings. So we thought that was much more consistent. And then in terms of skylights, we have, let me go back here quickly. We have placed the there's one skylight over here, and there's 2 of these sun tunnels, solar tubes, and they're on the east side of the roof. So they're, minimally seen from the 3 streets. Obviously, from Ukiah, you might be able to see them, but certainly from Ukiah, Ford, and Calpella, they're not really noticeable at all. And what we have is, I know people hate those sun tubes because they have these big bubbles on. Well, Velux, which is one of the skylight companies, has a product that's flat to the roof that gets flashed into the shingles, and it is a flat surface. So it doesn't have that bubble on it. And then the skylights would be, again, flat on the roof, as tight as we can get. So it wouldn't be curb mounted sitting up. It would be mounted right on the plywood of the roof to keep it as low as possible. So that's basically our design. We welcome your questions. We feel like the design is compatible with character defining features of Mendocino houses. We think the variance is justified. The form and the layout is consistent with the local pattern of development, and the materials are consistent with the houses in the area. So we look forward to a discussion about this and hope you will approve the project today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Perlman. Procedure-wise, we're going to go to see if there's any correspondence, and then we're going to open it up for public comment. We'll pause the meeting again for 3 minutes, and then we'll bring the discussion back to the board. So please, Mr. Perlman, if you can stay attached, that'd be great.
Sure.
So, Planner Cherry, do we have any correspondence or telephone calls that have been received related to this item other than those that we've identified that have been posted on the website?
I would defer to James Feenan. Have we received any comments since the meeting began?
Not received any additional comments that have not been posted.
Any requests for telecomment?
I have not received any.
Okay.
Chair Roth, would you like to take a 3-minute pause to allow for public comment, or?
Yeah, so let me reiterate that the review board welcomes participating in the meetings. If you request to speak on this matter, please call in now. To encourage public participation, the review board is setting aside 3 minutes to receive comments via email. Please send your comments to pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.org. When called to speak, please state your name for the record. Public comments limited to 3 minutes per person. Speakers are asked to please address their comments to the meeting chair, myself, and refrain from using profanity or engaging in conversations with members of the audience or staff. The clerk will announce when you have 30 seconds remaining. So, Planner Chair, if you want to start the timer, we'll let me do a quick reminder that board members should probably mute themselves so they don't get picked up on camera during this time. So if you can start the 3 minutes, that'd be great. And we'll be back in 3.
One minute remaining. Ten seconds remaining. All right, that's been 3 minutes.
All right, James, did we get anyone who's interested in talking on this project?
I did not receive any emails or telecomments.
Wow, shockingly, huh? Okay. So now we're gonna bring it back
one
to
sec.
board
Sorry.
members.
I've
That's
got a
right,
quick
board
thing.
mem- Yeah, go for it.
Former board member Ed O'Brien has trying to call in and is being unable to. He was trying to do it in that time period.
Right, so we actually, I know our thing says you can call in, but what we really mean is that you can email in. We're not like the Board of Supervisors set up to take telephone calls. We are set up to take emails at pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.org. James, I don't know if you are able to, for example, if Ed O'Brien were to email you, if you could send him a link. Really, the cutoff was 10 a.m. this morning to provide your contact information to be able to participate in the Zoom video tele meeting. But certainly during these 3 minutes, if someone wanted to email a comment to pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.org, now would be an appropriate time. And before we take action on a motion, you can certainly pause for a moment to check in with staff to see if an email has been received.
Yeah, and I've been in discussion with Ed O'Brien before, and he has expressed frustration about the inability to communicate with the board about certain items on a timely fashion, and that the limitation of the time. I understand that you have limited channels, but if there's any way we can hook him up, if you can send an email to him or reach back out, I would be happy to have his opinion be voiced about this, as he has had a vested interest in the community and spent lots of time on this board. I'd love to hear his opinion. So if we can somehow accommodate that by voice, that would be great.
Well, we'll make every effort. If you could email in a request, we can see if we can accommodate that. I would like to add that we do include on all our notices that you can email in to do telecomment, that the cutoff is by 10 a.m. this morning. So we will make every effort to accommodate him. Perhaps we can proceed with the meeting. If James does receive that email, he can indicate that, and we can hear the comments just before maybe a motion is made or something like that.
Can we
That'd be
send
great.
the link to the Zoom meeting?
I'm sorry, two people.
Can
were
we send in
speaking.
the link to the Zoom meeting so we can get in on Zoom?
Right, we can.
I've sent it 2 times to him.
All right, so
I've sent it twice. So
so
I don't
he-
know what else to do.
yeah. So we have communicated with him how he can participate in Zoom. And so if James, if you do happen to see that he joins the meeting, if you could let us know around the time that it looks like the review board is thinking of making a motion. Before they make a motion, maybe we can open it to public comment again.
That would be great. I appreciate that. And I'm messaging right now.
Okay, I just sent it again,
Yeah.
right from the Zoom app.
Thank you.
So perhaps
Okay.
when we get to matters from staff, we could discuss this a little bit more. We did have some discussion several months ago about allowing for this 3-minute pause, and maybe that would be a more appropriate time to talk about how to incorporate public comments during a public meeting rather than in the middle of considering this item, if the
Gotcha.
chair so pleases.
Yes, please. Thank you. Okay, so let's bring it back to staff, not staff, board members. Questions, comments, thoughts. What are you feeling? How does this application relate to our guidelines and your feelings about where it meets it or where it doesn't? Please.
Okay, I'm happy to kick it off.
Thank
It seems to me that we've addressed the elephant in the room, which would be the windows and the aluminum windows. And that proposal appears to have been withdrawn. And as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, earlier, I just want to make sure that we're talking about both the doors and the windows. People, both the staff and Mr. Perlman have just mentioned the windows, but I think we're talking doors as well. In addition, I had a question concerning the master bedroom French doors. There appear to be 4 large single pane doors. And I think it would be more appropriate if those would be 10 or 12 light doors instead of being these large single pane doors. I think that would be more consistent with the windows and doors in the town of Mendocino.
So just for clarification, that's the south elevation, is that correct?
It's the south elevation. Yes, the south elevation on the second floor. There are 4 very large doors, it looks like, from the bedroom. In addition, I think one of the comments that we received had to do with the railing over the screened porch. I think Mr. Perlman, in one of his memos, indicated that they would be made of wood. Somebody mentioned that that was not clear in the drawings, so I want to make sure that the railing will be made entirely of wood. I've also got a question about the screen for the screened porch. I'm not sure what material that's going to be made of. And finally, there is the question of lot coverage. I think our documentation indicates that the lot coverage is 20%. I'm looking at the drawings and it looks more like 50% to me on the drawings. Now that somehow may be misleading, but I want to make sure what the actual lot coverage is of the proposed building that we're looking at here. So those are my points. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Holm, Kapler, sorry. Is the architect still on? Oh, there we go. Mr. Perlman, can you address those concerns, please?
Yes, I can. For the multi-panel doors, the 4-panel doors, we can absolutely make those multi-light as suggested. We're happy to do that so they're consistent. The railings will be entirely of wood. I know there was one location where it said that it was going to be aluminum, but that is not the case. They will be wood. So in our drawings that responds to this, we will absolutely make sure that is noted. The screen porch, the structure of it is wood with board and batten on that portion of the screen. And the screen doors themselves, they're also wood. They're made of wood as well. So the inset panels, everything is wood. In terms of the lot coverage, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I thought we were at the proper number. We'd have to go back and check that. But again, I do think it is deceptive because there's a lot of land around the building. Let's see, hold on, I can quickly.
If I may briefly interrupt regarding lot coverage.
Yeah.
The rule states 15% for the main building or where there is more than one building on the site. Where there are 2 or more buildings on a lot, which is the case here, there are 2 buildings on the lot, the garage is separate from the home. 25% total lot coverage for all buildings. And on the building plans that are submitted, the architect has indicated that the lot coverage is 20%. So they're actually below the maximum allowed lot coverage. I think perhaps the reason it looks like it's more than 20% is some of the structures, like there's an open walkway between the garage and the house. It has some beams, but it's not covered. It does have a solid roof, right?
It's a trellis. Yeah.
So thank you, trellis.
There you go.
Thinking on my feet here, vocabulary. So, right, the architect on the drawings are saying that the total lot coverage is 20% and the maximum allowed is 25% in this district.
Board Member Kepler, does that answer your questions?
Yeah, it still looks funny to me, but what do I know? I just want to make a final comment about the skylights. I don't have any problems with the skylights. I think Juliana indicated that there were skylights in the plural. I think there's only one skylight, and it's over the bathroom as I read the information provided by Mr. Perlman. So it seems to me that I certainly don't have a problem with the skylights or the tubes. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I sort of pick apart a little bit of your question, which goes to the porch has 4 panels on the south elevation and 3 panels on the west elevation. Can I ask the architect to describe what those panels look like or what they shall look like?
Yes, let me go to the share screen again here. They have this kind of inset panel. They're wood framed, and then there's an inset panel on the bottom of each one. Each one is 3 feet wide, and then there's another inset wood frame that surrounds the screen itself. So they have a kind of traditional feeling to them. On the south side, the 2 middle ones are French doors that open out. On the sides, these are fixed.
When you say inset panels, those are
It's all
not the bottom, the top part of it. What is that material?
Oh, well, this is the screen itself.
So is it just a screening mesh?
Yes.
Okay, to keep the non-existent mosquitoes out, right?
Well, it has to do with
Have mosquitoes.
yeah, right.
I've been bit.
They're new, but yeah, we got them.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, we do a lot of work up, in Sonoma County here and San Francisco, and we all thought we didn't put screens on our own house, and that was a big mistake because there are plenty. Now, of course, Mendocino is a little different, but I think we're all changing because of climate change. But why don't you talk about the screen porch, Lisa?
Sure. I actually came up with this with Jonathan in developing an outdoor space. It is the only real area for us to be outside with some privacy. So these doors are screen doors, like you would put a screen door over a door in a sense. And yes, they are a mesh. And it just is to create some sort of, extension, outdoor living extension area. It would probably be a darker screen, more of a dark gray to accommodate. I know they come in different colors, but I think a dark gray or black usually. And so, yeah, so it's basically an outdoor space, but screened in for privacy. Since we're right facing across the post office, it's obviously very public.
It's a very public spot between Ukiah Street and Ford Street. So this gives some sense. So a couple things, we moved the house much further to the south because of that archaeological area. We were trying to keep it further to the north, but because we can't build on that, we moved the house further to the south. But that, of course, brings us to a much busier corner of Ukiah and Ford. So that was also part of it, to give outdoor space that's more private and it feels a little safer. Of course, there is a backyard as well, but again, it's fairly long and narrow. And again, to have the roof deck above it, kind of a widow's walk, because that's the great view towards the ocean there to the south. and southwest.
And I think I said this as well, that the screened-in porch not only just gives us the privacy, but I just thought it was a nice addition to, you know, the look of the house. And given all the parameters that we're, you know, facing, that, you know, it is more for privacy. There is no mature landscape on the property, and it will take years before trees and shrubs, you know, become not planted, but tend to grow, will grow. So again, we're just exposed, and we're just trying to create some sort of, you know, small private outdoor space.
Thank you. Board members, thoughts?
Yeah, I'll go next if you like. I
Yes,
do
please.
appreciate you sending the prints of the skylight and the light tubes. I think light tubes are a good idea, given, you know, we all want to save electricity, and where they're positioned, the fact they're flat to the roof, and in fact, I think they actually face another skylight in a building that's off the lot. So I have no problem with that. On the roof line, I went around and looked at the same roofs that you did around the site, and I don't think this jars with that in any way. I mean, I think, you know, if you look at the Blair house and you look at the house across the street on Capella, that seemed to be much of a muchness. So I'm happy with that. And as Holmes said, you know, we got rid of the elephant in the room, which was the wood windows. Screen porch is sort of interesting. It is unusual in the town. However, if you look at, I'm trying to think where it is. There are a couple of places where there's an upper deck and a lower open space. And frankly, I think that looks rather untidy. So I'm swinging back and forth between the fact that the screen porch is unusual and the fact that it's really actually quite a good use of the space. So I haven't quite come off the fence on that one yet. So so that's the only thing I'm kind of debating in my mind, really. Everything else I think I'm okay with. I guess we should talk about the colors at some point, but because I got a hint that they weren't on the agreed palette, but we can get back to that later.
You can launch that one if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that the color was in the palette and it's not. I don't know if there's any how we deal with that. I guess I've not had one of those come up before when I've been here.
So is the Benjamin Moore Storm Cloud Gray not on the Historic View Benjamin Moore palette?
I thought that's what Juliana said.
If I may, through the chair.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
The historic palette color has a prefix, HC, Historic Collection. And so this particular color does not have that prefix in its coding. It's not part of the historic collection. And if I may remind through the chair that the historic collection was a palette that was agreed upon for trim colors so that property owners would not have to come to the review board to get a change of color permit and spend $800 to change the color of their home. The intent was not to have the historic collection be the only colors that someone could propose to the review board. Property owners can propose whatever color they want. If someone wants to do something that's not on the historic collection or not part of the off-white collection, they certainly can propose it. It is the review board who determines whether the colors are compatible within the historic district. And what they did, I believe last year, was find that the off-white collection is compatible within the historic collection, and that the off-white collection is compatible within the historic district, and that the trim colors from the historic collection are also compatible for trim colors like doors and around windows.
Well, thanks for the clarification. That makes it a lot easier.
That's correct. Thank you. So, okay, Board Member Saunders, is that?
That's all I have. Yes, as I said,
Okay. Board member
Big
Magical.
fan of light pipes.
So
Wonderful.
yeah, I want to thank the applicants for talking through with us and for giving us the tour of the space. Yeah, this is one of the first new constructions I've seen since I've been on this. I haven't been on this board very long. But yeah, we received a comment from a former board member that was saying, that new construction should be differentiated from the old buildings, as not to produce a Disneyland sort of false replication of history, but at the same time be in alignment and compatibility with the historical structures. I don't know if Mr. Perlman, would you be willing to go to the page where you have, I think it was like the issues page with the gutters where it had the pictures of the different buildings. So yeah, my only question, I'm fine with the concurrent variances. I'm fine with the setbacks. I think it's a really tricky lot dealing with the constraints that you had for the, the three-sided, very public, very central location. So I'm fine with
which
all
is
of
probably
that.
why it's been vacant for so many years.
Yeah, I bet. My question actually had to do with a bit more of roof pitch. I see, like in these examples, it's really clear, that there are multiple roof lines and that is, in comparison. When I look at this building, and I realize that this might be something that at this stage in the plan process, may be set in stone, but can you talk a little bit about why you went for the pitch? Like all of these examples, they all have the Victorian sort of steep roof line.
Sure. So let me go back.
Not that one, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them are steeper than others.
Right. I was going to say there is a broad variety. These houses, the Blair House, McCallum House, and I think this has a Ford address, which is just directly across Calpella from our lot. But then this is just on Ukiah. This is just to the south of our lot. And you can see that this pitch is almost the same as what we're proposing. I think there are a variety of slopes. Obviously, this Gothic on the McCallum House is much steeper, and that's indicative of Gothic style homes of that period. But then when you got into the shingle style period, like the 1870s, 80s, and 90s, in just American architecture in general, the pitches were not nearly as steep. They were much more like this one that's across the street from us. Again, I think we're fairly close to the pitch there and the pitch here. But
yeah, they were probably echoing, buildings on the East Coast that needed snow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, snow pitch.
Yeah, no, well, that's where the whole shingle style came from, was all along New England and New Jersey coast. And yeah, so that is true. There were definitely the rain issues and snow issues there. But I think we're very consistent with, it's a 12-8 pitch. So it is a greater than 45-degree angle. So it does, I do believe it's consistent with, with the general, variety of homes in town.
Okay, thank you for that. And thank you for addressing the, the concerns that we received on the comments. I appreciate that you're not willing to martyr yourself on the vinyl windows, but I do think that this body is going to need to have that conversation.
Yes, I do think so.
And for the public, that the sample that we saw, on site, they really do look like the wood painted windows, so I think that will have to come before this board at some time. But I also appreciate that you're interested in moving forward and not wanting to have that.
Yeah, if I could
understand that you're not willing to die on that hill. Yeah.
Right. If I could just say one thing about that. Again, I probably will not be, hopefully, at the hearing where you're discussing that. But if you look through the websites of the companies that make those kind of windows, they're used on significant historic properties around the country. So, and again, it's almost impossible unless you're physically touching the window to tell, certainly from a streetscape, when it's aluminum or when it's painted. So, you know, obviously the weathering is the big issue because of where you are. But that's just my 2 cents. But we're not willing to die on that hill.
Right.
Thank you.
So that is, you know, that pretty much summarizes my concerns. I mean, it is we're in an interesting position where we're, you know, putting historical context on a building that's new. And so I appreciate you addressing these concerns. You know, the screen porch is a little bit unusual, you know, for Mendocino Village, but I understand that it was, you know, it was solving an architectural problem, and I think it could actually, you know, look quite nice and fit in well. I do support screens because when I'm unscreened, you know, flies and mosquitoes come flying in. So yeah, I think that's the majority of my concerns at this moment.
Thank you, Board Member Madrigal. For the record, I too don't want to be on this board when they have to tackle the aluminum clad painted windows. That just sounds, that was the biggest concern in my mind. And
I think
so
we
I
should stop talking about painted windows and talk about baked on paint and powdered paint, because I think that addresses the major concern I had, which was weathering. I think if you attach the paint properly, it'll last a long time and look like a new wooden window for a long time.
I agree. But that'll be someone else's battle, I hope.
Could be.
And you know what? Actually, I'm going to take it a half a step further. In looking, by the way, thank you for bringing the samples on site. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
it appeared to me that up close, you could see the differences. At a distance, maybe not. And I think the bottom line is in the reveals. And there's a shadow line that's created by the edge of the metal surrounding the window and the door. So I know that, and I'm an advocate of you know, building green and being, you know, energy saving and the rest of it. And I'll let that discussion go to someone else. That being said, I had concerns about the roof lines, but I really appreciate the fact that we were shown illustrations of other nearby buildings that had similar roof lines that were incongruous and a little busy. And I think I'm okay with that. And I think that it's in harmony. I've been on the board for 3 years, close to 3 years now, and I was on the design review board for Fairfax in Marin County for 9 years. So I've seen a lot of the stuff. I think the bottom line, something that someone brought to my attention when I first came on the board, was that we don't want to recreate buildings and replicate them in Mendocino. What we want to do is we want to use the vernacular and create a harmony with the building vernacular so that it looks like it's in place, whether it was built yesterday, tomorrow, or 100 years ago. There are a couple elements that I think are a little different to this. And I would say it's the stepped up windows on the south elevation that illuminate the staircase. Doesn't make me 100% comfortable, but at the same time, we want to call out that this isn't a building that was built 100 years ago or 150 years ago. And I think the architect, Mr. Johnson, has done a great job of integrating the elements and the details so that it is in harmony with its neighbors in the village. I like the town village concept too. Screen porch is a little different. I, for one, haven't had to deal with mosquitoes. a fly or two, maybe a honeybee. But I do agree that that is a very busy corner, and anyone who is listening to this and is not a resident should know that we don't have mail delivery at our street level. So everyone gets their mail from the post office.
Mm.
So our residents of this house that's proposed will get to know everyone in the town all at once, for better
Get
or
that
for
on a
worse.
Tuesday afternoon.
For better or for worse. And I'm not in the position to say that I like it or not, because that's not what I'm here for. I'm supposed to look at it and say, is it harmonious? Does it blend in with the architecture? Does it have the same vernacular? And I would say 90% you're there. And the 10% that you aren't, I would say that kind of sets you off as saying, we're not here from the turn of the century, we're here from the turn of the millennium. So the setbacks are okay for me. I think that's enhanced the positioning. I think it's design that's in character with the village. And I would be in support of this project. That being said, do we ever get up? Yes, Planner Cherry.
When we're done hearing from the board, if you wanted to open public comment again, we do have some public comment to share.
That would be great. I was just going to say, do we have anyone else on the line? And we'd love to hear from them and get a tongue lashing from all the residents and find out where we're gets or supportive of.
Yeah. If I may, through the chair, provide some public comment that we've received by email.
Yes,
Kelly
please.
Grimes writes, hi esteemed board members. Skylights are a character defining element and should not be allowed. The low profile is appreciated, but will still reflect sun during the day and the light at night. Celestial windows are what were used historically to allow light back into a building. And that's from Kelly Grimes.
Thank you.
And I understand that if we could also stop sharing screen, that would be helpful. I understand we also have some people who have called in and managed the connection. So I'll allow James Feenan to manage that.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to have the public comment timed for 3 minutes or?
Yes, please. That's our standard. I'd like to keep with our standard at least.
All right.
Well,
So-
Mr. O'Brien is now on the meeting. Mr. O'Brien, you have to star 6 on your phone to talk.
All right, and you have 3 minutes. When you begin speaking, I'll start the timer, and I'll give you a 30-second warning before the conclusion of the 3 minutes, Mr. O'Brien.
Yes, please. That's our standard. I'd like to keep with our standard at least.
All right. So,
Mr. O'Brien is now on the meeting. Mr. O'Brien, you have to star 6 on your phone.
Turn off his YouTube.
Ed, can you hear it? I think there was a delay.
speaking, I'll start the timer, and I'll give you a 30-second warning before the conclusion of the 3 minutes, Mr. O'Brien.
So, Ed, if you can turn off YouTube, that'd be great because we're getting a delay.
But not only turn off YouTube, not mute it, but turn it off entirely.
What?
There we go.
We can
I'm
hear
sorry.
you.
Please proceed.
Well, this is Ed O'Brien. This is a very, very difficult thing to get onto. We'll talk about that at a later time. I have a lot of concerns about this building. Main thing is that the staff finding that it's proposed work is in harmony. I don't believe it is. I believe the house to the north, Bishop House, is what they should be modeling, a very simple structure with a couple of angle changes This has way too many angle changes. A screened-in porch with a huge deck over top of it, with big windows over top of that on the Ukiah Street side is nowhere to be found. This is going to be one of the longer buildings in town. It stretches almost the entire block to block. It was supposed to be a simple kind of a structure here. This is way overbuilt. The three windows going up as to light up the stairway, whatever they're supposed to be doing, it's not working. The large windows on the deck, I don't think this could be approved. I do not believe it's going to be set well. I think the setback of 10 feet makes it way too close to the street, to Ford Street. I understand they want to get as much of a building as they can out of that small lot. It's a small lot. It should have small structures. They should not be complicated. They should not have all kinds of angles. When you have the dormers, they should offset. They should be balanced, not one at one height, one at another. I do believe that the architect's a very good architect, and I believe he could, with some guidance, he could come back with an acceptable structure that would fit well in the community. I thank you very much for your time, and I really do want somebody to work on how hard it is to get into these meetings. But I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ed. We appreciate your comments. Do we have someone else on the line?
James, do we have anyone else on the line or any
I do
other
not.
emails received?
I do not have any other emails or any telecomments.
Okay. Thank you so much. We've had board comment, we've had public comment. With the last speaker, Mr. Ed O'Brien, do the board members have any other comments they'd like to make? Or I would be open to hearing a motion from someone who's interested in going forth or against this application.
Let me just say that I think that the plans that have been presented are good plans. I think they're attractive. In my view, they fit in with the character of the town. So I could support the plans. I think the only change that I would make are the change to the bedroom windows or doors to make them multi-light doors. I think the architect has indicated that they would agree to do that. Other than that, I really do not have a problem with the proposal, and I'm perfectly willing to make a motion to approve the permit.
Any other comments from our board members?
I'm still a little concerned about the screened-in porch. As I said, I'm swinging backwards and forwards about the fact that it doesn't really fit in with the vernacular of the village, as you said, but the fact that it actually serves a purpose and is probably better than the vernacular of the village in that sense. When I look at some of the places, and there's at least one building I know where there's an upper deck and a lower space under it that looks really untidy. So I don't know if there's an alternative to that, but I'm not totally convinced on the screened-in porch. I guess everything else I'm okay with.
So actually, board member Magical, just half a second. I want to respect you and respond to you, but as a response to board member Saunders, I think it was before your time, and I know that Home is aware of it. There is a property next to Crown Hall above the dilapidated end of Albion Street that has a upper deck and lower deck, and it is open and it is clean. And it's an example, one of few that I know of that have that element in town. It's not screened in, but at the same time, it has a lot more privacy than this property does. So I'm with you, Alan. It's a little bit of a conundrum. And I think we just sort of need to think about not necessarily setting a precedent, but understanding location and exposure of the property.
Mhm.
And I would love to, I know once we stamp yes or no, it's what it is. But it'd be nice to work with the owners, occupants in the coming years to find out what seems to look right and what doesn't, and maybe if it's unbecoming, maybe we can manage some sort of discussion and modification if needed. And I'll shut up for now. So board member Magical, please.
I was just going to add that the original plans we have had the garage connected, which did make it feel, like Mr. O'Brien said, like a very big, long building. And I actually brought out my plans that, shows the garage separated. And I think that does really break up that, and that will break up the feeling of it being one big, long building. I just wanted to specify that a previous iteration had the garage connected. I'm assuming that the people who commented, we received a number of comments. I believe most of them were in regards to the skylights and the, the bubble lights, which were addressed. I just think that was important to point out.
Thank you.
I would Ian, if I could
Go ahead.
just say about the screened-in porch, to me, the screened-in porch is a much more elegant solution than just having an upper deck the way we have in that other house that you were mentioning. And especially in view of the busyness of that location. So I just don't have a problem with that. I think it's a very elegant solution to the problem.
Thank you. I myself want to thank Mr. Perlman for being flexible and responsive. It is a lot that has been a missing tooth for a long time. Lisa and Michael, thank you for indulging us. The fact that we were identified that the light tubes were going to be flat and flush, and the one skylight is going to be flat and flush. The way that you responded to the public comments, I think, is very admirable. I understand Mr. O'Brien's concern. I think that with its location, it's going to be very prominent. It's going to have a lot of eyes from the town on it. And I would hope that our community would embrace a well thought out, hopefully beautifully constructed, new tooth in our town into this mouth. And it's just, I think it does justice to the site. It's not perfect, but nothing's perfect. But I think we've hit it at 90%, and I'm okay with the 10% of it being a little bit of a challenge. So I'd be happy at this point to get a motion from the board.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve MHRB permit 2021-0012 with the change to the bedroom doors that we've talked about, and subject to the conditions that are set out in the staff report.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Board Member Madrigal. I appreciate that. Planner Cherry, can you please do a roll call vote?
Certainly, be my pleasure. Board Member Saunders.
I was hoping you'd leave me till last.
Oh, I could do that. Board member
I'm
Roth.
still thinking. I'm still chewing on the whole portion.
And you know what? I think we probably doing a straw vote. I think we probably have 3-4, so that 3 in support. So if you feel obligated of your conscience to oppose, that is your prerogative.
No, I am genuinely still balancing that whole look versus privacy and requirement thing. So
Planner Cherry, can you please do a roll call vote and ask Board Member Saunders for his vote last?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. Thank you. So Board member Kapler, what is your vote?
Aye.
Board member Saunders.
Oh,
That'd be the last. That'd be the
Oh,
last.
I'm sorry, that's not, I apologize. Board member Madrigal.
Yes.
Board member Roth.
Aye.
And board member Saunders.
I think yes. Also, yeah, I'm looking at some of the mock-ups and so on, and I think the answer is yes. Yes, I will approve.
Great, so the project passes 4-0 with a requirement that the French doors in the primary bedroom be multi-light windows.
right.
Thank you all very, very much.
And thank you for your understanding and your ear on the township.
Sure.
We look forward in working with you and reviewing this as we go along. And should there be any long-term issues, we hope we can work with our new residents, Lisa and Michael Rhodes, to modify anything that needs to be done. So thank you so much and good luck.
Thank you.
But
And I just want to review, just for your information, there is a 10-day appeal process that will cost someone wanting to appeal about $1,600. But wait for 10 days, and when you hear from planning and building, then you may be able to proceed if that's what it is. So thank you so much for
I
your time.
appreciate that it's $1,600. In San Francisco, it's about $600. And they get a group of 10 people to throw in $60 each. So I appreciate that it's that much. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
might I suggest? I don't know. Holly brought up a good point that Ed may not have the final drawing, and I'm not sure it will change his mind. But it does look different. That's what I'm thinking. When I was looking at the porch, I looked at the original, mock-up display, and it definitely does look different with a separated garage. So maybe we want to make sure anybody who's worried sees that. I'm not sure it'll change their mind, but at least it'll let them know what's actually happening. And I don't know whether we can do that or not.
So I would suggest that as per Board Member Saunders' recommendation, that the applicant reach out to Ed O'Brien. If you don't know him, you should, and you will need to. And if you want to approach him and give a set of current plans, that would do wonderful reaching out to the.
I've got a
community.
spare set of plans. I mean, it's I have a spare set that I could drop by Ed's. I mean,
But I think the applicant approaching Ed would probably it would subject you for at least a 45-minute tongue lashing, but it might be worth it. It might be worth it. Ed is a fixture, and he pulls some weight in our community. So proceed, walk lightly,
Yes.
and we look forward to your success.
Right, and bring a plate of cookies.
Yes, or 2.
Or 2. Thank you. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. That actually took less time than I thought it was going to.
Good.
Okay, which brings us to 9B. Something I think is going to be much easier to deal with. This is MHRB 2021-0013, the Partners Gallery sign. Mendocino Historical Review Board requests to install a double-faced wooden sign hanging perpendicular to the Beacon Building front on Albion Street and dangling from and hung below an existing sign. Sign colors are blue, black, white, and red, and the sign copy is to read Partners Gallery. The Beacon Building is a Category 1 historic resource located at I'm sorry, it's on Ukiah Street. 45062 Ukiah Street. Is planner Mark Klisner here to make a presentation of this application? Kleiser, I'm sorry. Staff is silent. Have they vacated us?
Staff is here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. As Mark Kleiser, planner for this project, as stated, this is a request to install a double-faced wood sign hanging perpendicular to the building. The sign will be placed below the existing sign, which reads Mendocino Beacon. Sign colors are blue, black, white, and red, and the copy will read Partners Gallery. The location is the Mendocino Beacon building, which is listed as a Category 1 historic structure. The sign will replace the previously approved honey and rose sign, and dimensions will remain the same. I have some photos here. I'd like to share screen.
Yes, please.
Can you see?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Okay, this is the building as it is now. This is the Mendocino Beacon sign. And this is the old honey and rose sign, which hangs beneath it. The dimensions will be exactly the same, colors, of course, and copy will change, and this is what the sign will look like. Staff is asking that the board consider the colors, design, size, and placement and location of the sign, as well as the standard sign findings and conditions in this project, with the inclusion of 2 new standard conditions. These 2 new conditions will appear on all sign projects moving forward, and they are condition 6, which reads a sign copy exemption pursuant with Mendocino County Code section 20.760.040H can be applied once to the subsequent business at this location. Staff did meet with stakeholder Rick Sachs, who agreed that this condition was fair. And condition number 7 will state sign copy shall not include telephone numbers, web addresses, references to social media, or other similar information. And this condition was created in response to the board's request in May to prohibit use of phone numbers, web addresses, and reference to social media. Condition 5 will remain the same. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. You are muted.
I'm sorry, there we go. Planner Kleiser, you
Yes.
mentioned condition number 7, which I do not see in the staff report, and that had to do with phone numbers, social media, blah, blah, blah. Is that something that is on record?
That should be in the staff report. It is posted online. I don't know why you have a copy that doesn't have it.
Okay, I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, mine doesn't either, but
I just want to know, I mean, it needs to be on record.
Yeah. Mark, perhaps you could open the staff report and share those conditions on screen.
Yeah, so I see it. It's on the online staff report. So as long as our board members understand that that's part of the packet, that's good. I just don't want to leave it on.
Would you like me to show that online on the screen?
Mark, could you please put it up on the screen?
And that'd be for the record because we are being recorded.
and I have a just quick follow-up question, which is, we have this condition with the signed copy exemption. Can we just get a little reminder summary of what the signed copy exemption is? I mean, I think that had to do with like subsequent businesses. Just like, yeah, like a super quick summary.
That code states that copy changes on legally existing signs, provided that the Building and Planning Services Department has determined that the replacement sign or revised sign either conforms to sign size and design standards contained in this chapter in chapter 2.712 is similar in color and design to the original sign, is not larger than the original sign, and is in the same location on the property as the original sign. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
And here is the condition.
There it
Okay.
is.
There it is.
There's- And 7.
Yeah,
And 5
that's fine.
remains the
Thank you.
So entered.
Okay. Thank you so much, Planner Kleiser. Is our applicant Rick Sachs, is he present? Or Agent Pamela Han, or applicant?
I lose them.
Yeah. Yes, both are present.
Great. So Rick or Pamela, who wants to go first?
I'm not sure if Rick is there. Pamela's here.
When you're here, let's do it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Well, you saw the sample of what we want to do. It's exactly the same size as what was there before. We're an art gallery. We've been in business for 22 years. We're thrilled to be in the Beacon building. Many of us have lived in town for at least 50 years, so we have a lot of respect for the historic district. In fact, I was one of those who worked hard for it in the first place.
Thank you.
Yeah. We've, as a gallery, we invested $10,000 into fixing up the inside of the building. We're very proud to be there, but we need a sign so we can support our business.
Thank you. Rick, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
we can, please.
Hi, I am not the applicant.
I am the applicant.
Yes, no, we understand.
Yeah.
Pamela's, Miss Han is the applicant and Mr. Sachs is the person producing the sign. So do you have anything to add to that, Rick?
No, I think it's pretty well covered. You know, it's the same size as what's been approved at Honey and Row, and there have been other signs at that location prior to Honey and Row. And so it's the same size, same location, just all different colors.
And if anyone would know, you would know.
I do know.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Staff,
welcome.
is there any correspondence or telephone calls that have been received related to this item?
I have not really received any correspondence or any telecomments.
Okay, so in the process of being open and transparent, what we're going to do is we're going to put a 3-minute open time. Works for a good break as well. But we want to welcome participation in the meetings. If you request to speak on this matter, please call in now or email. To encourage public participation, the review board is setting aside 3 minutes to receive comments via email. Please send your comments to PBS. That's public, yes, the building services commissions, PBS commissions at mendocinocounty.org. When called to speak, please state your name for the record. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Speakers are asked to please address their comments to the meeting chair, that'd be me, and to refrain from using profanity or engaging in conversation with members of the audience or staff. The clerk will announce when you have 30 seconds remaining. And reminder to board members, please mute yourself for the next couple minutes. And we will see you in 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
30 seconds remaining.
Guess I
Our
should
time.
show.
Time.
Okay, so do we have any public comments?
I did not receive any public comments or any telecomments.
Thank you so much for staffing that part of this meeting. Appreciate it. I see that Mr. Sachs has his hand raised. You have to unmute yourself.
I thought I lowered my hand.
Oh,
There
no,
you go. There you have.
nope, and it's back up again. Back down, we're good, okay. So, we have no public hearing. Do we have discussion between board members? Any thoughts about this application?
I've got no problems with it. Seems
No.
fine to me.
I'm good.
I would just add that I'm really tickled to have them there. I've peeked in at a couple of, safe openings that they've hosted over the past month or so, and it's a really wonderful gallery addition to the town. So thank you for that.
I'm glad that you're tickled. That's important. Okay, I don't have any problems either. It looks like it's a pretty straightforward replacement of existing signs, so we're not adding or taking away from anything else, and we're supporting our local businesses, which I think is something that's very important. So I will entertain a motion.
Also move with the included new conditions of number 7, 6 and 7.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second. 2 seconds.
Are you guys gonna arm wrestle over that?
No, I don't mind.
Who wants to claim it?
Alan, you can claim it.
Yeah, it'll wipe out my past recalcitrance.
That's a long list, huh?
Yeah, well, yeah, but that's only just for today.
Okay. Staff member Planner Cherry, can you please take a roll call vote?
Yes. Chair Roth, what is your vote?
Aye.
And board member Kapler, what is yours?
Aye.
Board member Saunders
Aye.
and board member Madrigal.
Yes.
So the sign is approved unanimously with the conditions as included in the staff report published online.
Thank you, Planner Cherry. And Rick, again, thank you. I'm sure we're going to be seeing you for the next couple of applications, but thank you for your support of our community. And Ms. Hahn, best of luck to you. We appreciate your endeavor and look forward to your prosperity.
Well, thank you. Come to the gallery.
Been there, done that, and we'll keep coming back.
Okay. Does the 10-day appeal apply to signs?
Yes, it does.
So how does one know if you've been appealed?
So staff will, I'm sorry, Planner Cherry, staff will let you know, they'll communicate to you if you've been appealed. But basically, Mr. Sachs, 11 days from now, would be happy to deliver your sign, and however you agreed to mount it, put it in place, that'd be great. And is there anything else you want to add, Planner Cherry?
Okay, within a couple of days, you'll receive a letter in writing about the board's action today. A 10-day appeal period will conclude on the 24th, at which time we will mail a permit to you. And that if no appeal is filed. And of course, if you have any questions, you can follow up with Planner Mark Kleiser.
Okay. All right, so I guess it's wise to wait till the 24th before we start making the sign.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you, and go forward and prosper.
Yeah, we're excited.
Great. Okay, that concludes item number 9B on the regular calendar. We're going to 9C, which is MHRB 2021-0014 Nahara Healing Arts Sign. And this is and I want to state for the record, and after the fact, which means we're not asking for permission, we're asking for forgiveness. And after the fact, Mendocino Historic Review Board permit request for a double-faced painted wood sign hanging perpendicularly to the building front of a black painted metal bracket, from a black painted metal bracket. Sign colors are off white and gold. Sign copy to read Nahara Healing Arts. The project site is 1041 Lansing Street. Planner Kleiser, would you like to present this for us, please? We do not have audio yet.
Sorry, and I was so good. Mark Kleiser here. As you've stated, this is an after-the-fact request to install a 24-inch circle double-faced sign, which hangs perpendicular to the building. Sign colors are off white and gold, and they hang from a black metal bracket. And the sign reads Nahara Healing Arts, located at 10481 Lansing. And staff requests the review board consider the colors, design, size, and placement and location of the sign, as well as the standard findings and condition, which do include the two new conditions 6 and 7. And if that's not on your staff report, I can share that on the screen.
Yes, please. We have 6, but we do not have 7.
Yeah.
Okay. This is, yes, this is the staff report, and here are conditions 6 and 7.
Okay.
And this is a photograph of the sign as it exists now. And that concludes my report. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, and thank you for the clarification, and thank you for the documentation on our recorded video. Okay. Do we have Rick Sachs still on the line?
We do.
And we're also looking for Angela Burdick, the applicant, and Bill Zimmer, the owner.
You have,
We only have, oh, now.
Yeah, just Rick.
Rick Sachs is here.
Thank you. Please proceed.
This was a sign that was previously approved at a different location. My client had to move very abruptly and found this new location and assured me that Mr. Zimmer had told her that this sign was approved at that location. I moved the sign and she found out that Mr. Zimmer was incorrect in his statement and she wants to get it right. So that's the deal. Is she put up the money for a whole new application and wants to keep her business straight and legal.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. We appreciate that. One disclaimer. I own the Seagull Inn Bed and Breakfast, and Bill Zimmer is my neighbor. I don't have any financial gain on this, so I don't need to recuse myself because I have no benefit from this business or not. And Rick, I know you've been in business for a long time, and I know that you've been in front of our board a number of times. If, with all due respect, I might request that before you take action, that you look at our meeting minutes and agendas. You know that when something comes in front of our board, if it has to do with the sign and you made it, that we come forward to you. With all due respect, I would just request that you avoid acquiescing to the request of your clients without permission from our board. And I will shut up at that point. I'm done with the tongue lashing. But at this point, I will ask the staff, our staff, if there's any correspondence or telephone calls that have been received related to this item.
We have not received any correspondence or telecomments.
Okay. So we're going to do a 3-minute break again. So Planner Chair, if you can please put the timer on. This is for public comment on this item. Review Board welcomes participation in the meetings. If you request to speak on this matter, please call now or email. To encourage public participation, the Review Board is setting aside 3 minutes to receive comments via email. Please send your comments to pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.org. And when you're called to speak, please state your name for the record. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Speakers are asked to please address their comments to the meeting chair, that would be me, and to refrain from using profanity or engaging in conversation with members of the audience or staff. The clerk will announce when you have 30 seconds remaining. Thank you. We'll see you in just under 2.5 minutes.
There's 1 minute remaining for members of the public to email their comments to pbscommissions@Mendocino County. Thirty seconds remaining. All right, that concludes 3 minutes.
Thank you, Planner Chair. I appreciate your attention to this process. Do we have any public hearing interest?
I did not receive any public comments or telecomments.
Thank you so much. So bringing this back to the board. I appreciate Rick Sachs still on the line here. Board members, do we have any comments, concerns, questions, discussion?
I think it's a great sign. I'd be happy to make a motion when we're ready.
I said, I think Rick answered the why and you answered the, what happens next. And I appreciate the owner and Rick coming forward and making it street legal, as it says. So other than that, I think I'm good too.
Vice Chair Kapler, you're muted.
All right, I'm back on. And I would just support you, Mr. Chairman. I think, if you've got a question concerning signs, and I can understand that you might have a question, I would suggest talking to the Planning and Building Services staff. Talking to Mr. Zimmer, who has been in conflict with this board on numerous occasions with regard to signs, and I believe in violation of what this board has wanted in the past, is not the right idea. So I would just suggest, if you've got a question, talk to Planning and Building Services. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. So I'm going out on a limb. Like I said, Bill Zimmer is my neighbor, and I respect him as a businessman for being successful for what he's doing, and I support the tenants that he has that help carry our town. Baby Lapin, which is one of the businesses in his cadre of tenants, came in after the fact to ask for approval, and we denied. And it is still on the sidewalk, and I have nothing against him. I have nothing against the business owner. But I feel like the middle finger's been stuck in our face in this whole process.
Yes.
And I will probably regret this. But it has nothing to do with Sharon Peters, who is the applicant. I want to support her business, and I want to support business in town. And I'm sitting here as the chair of the Mendocino Historic Review Board that has a responsibility. And I'm going to vote against this, not as the applicant for this application, but against thumbing their nose at our responsibility. So just to be very frank, Nahara Healing Arts, Angela Burdick, I want you to succeed. I want to be part of your business. I want to do the right thing by you as a business owner, and I've got lots of heartstrings attached to business here. But in true conscience, the applicant is not necessarily Angela Burdick. It's more Bill Zimmer, who's my neighbor, and I'll probably get retribution for this. But I cannot support this application because we have a code enforcement issue, and Baby Lapin, the sign that was put up, we denied, and there has not been a follow through with that. So I'm not putting it on Angela Burdick as the chair of the Mendocino Historic Review Board. I'm putting my derriere on the line against my neighbor to say I am in opposition to this until the applicant's landlord conforms with the resolution that we passed and our decision that we processed. So in good conscience, I cannot accept this application. We just lost a board member. Bottom line is I have no problem with Angela Burdick. I have no problem with Nahara Healing Arts. I think it's a beautiful sign. I'm tired of being run over. So I'm going to be in opposition to this application, and I'm going to put it on his newest tenant to make things right with our tenant. And I will probably eat crow for this, but there it is. Yes, please.
Could I ask Juliana Cherry or perhaps Mr. Kleiser to respond to the question of why the matter of Baby Le Pen has not been enforced? Why our decision not to have the sign where it is, why that hasn't been enforced? It's been more than a year, I think, that that decision was taken.
Thank you. Through the chair, I would
Yes.
like to first start with noting that board member Saunders left the meeting briefly but has returned. And
Thank you.
I believe that my colleague Mark Kleiser is prepared for this question. Planning staff has been very aware of the ongoing violation of their multiples on Bill Zimmer's property, Baby Le Pen being one, the use of sandwich board signs consistently, despite code enforcement requesting that sandwich boards not be used, is an ongoing problem on the property. When we went out to do a site visit, Mark took some photographs, and I believe he's prepared to share them with the review board as well. The review board certainly could, the property owner is the responsible party, and not the individual business owners who rent from the property owner. So the review board's action could also reflect the responsibility of the property owner. But I will defer to my colleague Mark Kleiser to respond.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm going to share screen if I can.
Yes,
There we
please.
go. Thank you. Okay.
We see your empty desktop.
Where's the
Go back
PDF?
again.
Oh,
1 second, please. We're having a
No worries. Take your time.
difficulty.
Stop sharing that one. Okay, now go back. It's right to the right.
There we go. Okay, these were photographs taken from the day we visited the property. This is the water tower on Mr. Zimmer's property. Here we have some sandwich boards. Here are sandwich boards for Barge North Company. And then here we have a sandwich board for the country store. And this is just an example of the types of signs that are on there, and code enforcement has gone out, but as planners, we are unable to enforce anything, so.
Planner Kleiser, if you can scroll up to the next slide. The other way, sorry. No.
Here?
Okay. So the sandwich board that is in the center of the slide
no, that's not it.
is adjacent to
Yeah.
the sign that was put up that's hanging. And again, I don't have an issue with any of the business owners. I get it. But everyone has to follow rules, or we got tyranny and silliness. To the right of that sandwich board is a free hanging sign for Baby Le Pen that we said no to. So I'm actually less interested in the sandwich boards, which isn't an issue, and I acknowledge it. But when we totally said no to that freestanding sign for that business, it has not been removed. And we are now having an application for an after the fact change in signage that we have not approved. And like I said, I'm gonna eat crow for this, and that's what it is. But the bottom line is, if we can't enforce our own rules, why am I wasting my time here?
Mhm.
And that's rhetorical. I don't, and to Planet Kaiser, I don't want to put you in a position to answer that. It's more rhetorical, and it's to my board members. And frankly, I'm appalled, and I'm kind of at a loss. And I do know our code enforcement manager, Trent Taylor, and I know he's got a lot more on his plate than stupid signs having to do with cannabis and everything else. But I'm not interested in approving an application for after the fact when he's already in violation. And I'll shut my trap at that.
So I've got a comment in response to that, if that's all right.
Yes, please.
So unfortunately, this is impacting the applicant directly. Not, the tenant, it's the applicant who's wanting to put this sign forward. And I completely understand your frustration and understand that you feel the need to draw the line somewhere. But I almost wonder if it wouldn't be more appropriate to take this sign on its merits, because we do know that they were forced to move quickly from the highlight gallery. Actually, I believe that they had to vacate that spot that we're gonna do their sign next. And thought, the applicant thought their sign was approved for, the new location. They were given that information. I wonder if there wouldn't be a way to come up with some sort of censure or some sort of like after this, if this was to be approved, after this approval, to say, no more sign permits will be approved for any tenants in this building complex until the previous signs have been rectified. Or I wonder if there's a way that we could separate out the landlord from the applicant in this sense, because even though you're making a point, it is in fact impacting this business, and they are trying to, at least the applicant is trying to be in compliance and do what's necessary to do that after the fact. So I just wonder if there's a way that staff might be able to help us separate it, to come up with some sort of censure or some sort of, like, I don't know if there's a fee process, like they're not in compliance. I mean, it's very clear, but I hesitate. I'm not interested in penalizing this particular applicant for the massage.
And I totally agree with that. I want to support the business. And the sign's up. So we're behind the 8 ball. So basically we're toothless. And it's great that the applicant, who is the business owner, gets their signage and gets notoriety and recognition for where they are, which is great. And like I said, the hardest part for me is that this is my neighbor, so I'm going to get definite repercussions from it. But maybe there's something about business license fees. If there's something, and I know this is probably more the Board of Soups that would like say, well, if you're not in compliance with MHRB, then you're going to have to pay a fee for your next business license approval for a landlord. I don't know where it is, and that's why I'm bringing it to you guys. But I'm feeling a little hollow. I'm feeling like there's a part of the population in the village, whether they've been here for 85 years or 2 months, that basically thumb their noses at us. And if that's the way it's going to go, why are we here? What's the deal?
Mhm.
So I'm looking at board members for recommendations about how to proceed. I'm looking at staff on how to proceed. I'm trying not to alienate my fellow business members At the same time, I'm tired of this shit. And I see that Rick Sachs has his hand up. So if I can ask board members to keep cogitating about what their thoughts are about my ruminations and blah, blah, blah. We can get Rick to throw something out. And then I really want to hear from you guys for thoughts and solutions and how to move forward, because in the vernacular, this sucks. So Rick, please.
I agree with you, Ian. And the way that it was all designed to work is that there would be code enforcement that would be able to levy some financial penalties on the property owner to bring about compliance. And it's been a lot of years since I've seen that happen. But I know Nahara talked to him, and I talked to her and told her this isn't in compliance. And she went back and talked to Mr. Zimmer again, who reassured her this is in compliance, go ahead and do it. And somehow that's where the tooth has to come, is code enforcement being able to grab a hold of the property owner. He's the one that's in charge of his tenants and telling them what to do. And if there are all these violations, it seems pointless to go after each business in that property when Mr. Zimmer is the one to go to him and say, hey, I have an agreement with the county to obey the law, and I'm not doing it. You know, he needs to. And I will probably experience some of what you're afraid you'll experience for saying that. But it's the only way to do it that I can see is code enforcement. You know, whether it's a fine or a lien against the property. I'm done.
Thanks, Rick. I appreciate that. And I'm going to probably make two enemies, at least on this call. Rick, you are the sign guy in town. You know what's going on. You've been here a lot longer than I have. I would implore you, before you put up a sign, have a conversation with Planning and Building Services. And don't take the word of anyone. Just go to them and say, is this legit? Because if that isn't happening, and I've seen you, I've been here for almost 3 years. And I've seen a lot of you. And I appreciate your work, and I appreciate what you do for our community. But if you can't take responsibility for your actions, here we go. I'm going to create another enemy, and you're going to probably write about me and tell me I'm a jerk. But maybe we need to levy a fine on the sign creators and posters if they knowingly violate or don't research what is legal and what isn't legal. So I don't want to be a jerk. Like I said, I probably alienated you just now and Bill, but if there's no respect for our board, then why are we here? And I think I know that, Rick, you in your heart want to do the right thing. I want to be a benefit to our community. I need you to step up and not just take someone's word for what's right or what's not right, but go and check it out and do a little bit of footwork and earn your keep and do the right thing. Because I don't want to be here again. And I don't want a tongue lashing, which I know I'm going to get, and I don't want to give one. So let's just all be one community and do the right thing.
You're not going to.
I'm sorry. I just want to disagree that, like, we do not require, when people are filling water tanks, we don't require that business owner to make sure that the water tank is permitted. We don't do a lot of those things. And I understand your frustration, but putting it on a particular business owner And, you know, of course, Mr. Sachs does most of the signage in town, but there are other sign companies, and we don't require business owners to only deal with sign making companies that, you know, are working closely in partnership, you know, with building and planning. And I understand your frustration, but I do think that I would be interested to hear from staff how we could put some teeth in enforcement for the landlords and not the tenants and the business owners that are in this process. Because like for this sign in particular, they are trying to be in compliance after the fact. Like they are trying to do it properly, even though they received incorrect information from their tenant. So I would love to hear if staff has any ideas on how we could, you know, make more enforcement.
And
Mark-
before we get to your answer, if I as a business owner, if I don't want someone parking in front of my business, and I ask someone to come and paint the corner of the curb red or blue and put up a handicap stencil in front of my building, I would want to know from that consultant or contractor, I would want them to check out, is this real? Am I able to do this? Is this legal? Should I not be doing this? I'm asking for responsibility on all levels. And I'm asking to be an adult that's responsible and respectful of the community. So I'm not putting it on Rick to do everything. I'm just asking for everyone who is involved to check out what they're doing, if it is legal or not, before they do it. And I'll be quiet now, and I know that the county had their hand up first, so please proceed.
Yeah, Mark Kleiser, Planner 2, if I may, through the chair.
Yes, please, thank you.
A couple options here. We can continue this item until all the violations have been at the very least applied for. So if the violations come in and take out an application for a sign permit, then we could consider that the first step, then we could move forward with this project potentially. And then if Planner Cherry could elaborate, I do believe the review board can file a code enforcement complaint.
So may I say something as well?
Yes, please.
So I'm sort of with Holly. I think that it would be remiss of us to effectively, I want to use the word, but it is punish this existing business owner for a violation that's happened in the past. I don't see that, you know, if we don't approve this sign, knowing the owner of the building is, you know, blown us off before, isn't going to help at all. It just blow us off again. So I think the thing to do is to go after the actual violation, which, and I wasn't there when this sign was put up, but the sign that is in violation when there is no approval for the permit, I mean, that's the one to go after. And I'm happy to let this one go, but then find some teeth to put into the other thing. And then on the other comment that Holly made about, you know, somebody who's running a business, yes, I expect them to be conscious of what's going on. I think Rick, you know, being here and seeing what he said, is conscious of it, but I don't think it's appropriate to put the responsibility there. The responsibility for getting the permit is, as I understand it, to the business owner. And so the business owner has to know, you know, not to take the word of someone else other than the review board. The way you want to put it on someone who's providing the sign, I mean, that would be something we would have to write into every sign. Every person that writes a sign has to know that. So I think the right answer, and I understand your frustration, and I'm frustrated too if we have no teeth, is to go after the one real violation that is a violation. The sign was not approved. It's still there. If there's no mechanism to go fix that, there's no mechanism to go fix anything. So that's the one to go after. And the fact that this lady wants to sign up, I think she's done the right thing. paid her fee, whatever, I think I would be in favor of letting that proceed, and I would not put, other than good conscience, any onus on the sign writing business. That's kind of where I'm at. And again, I understand your frustration, but I also disagree with the approach.
So I'm going to respond to that because I'm the chair and I can.
Good.
And then I'll put it off to home in a minute. And then we got Rick. The sign is up. The business is flourishing. If we vote to oppose, it has no teeth. There will be no repercussion to the business owner, other than on record that we've opposed this application. The business will go on, reputation will go on, the sign will exist, it will not change. With regard to the consultant who's in between the project and the outcomes, when you hire a contractor to build a house, like we just saw in this last application, a couple applications ago, the contractor's due diligence is to find out what are the setbacks, what is the lot coverage, where are the areas where, due to architectural digs, or not architectural, artifactual digs, what is permitted, what isn't permitted. I would put it on Rick and his company that he should have the same responsibility of any other business to do what's legal and right, regardless of what the client says. He has the responsibility to not just make the sign, but to understand the laws and the regulations, and not just take the word of someone to say, yeah, it's okay. Please build me a house. I don't care whether you looked into the regulations about whether it's legal or not. I don't care what the setbacks are. I don't know what the archaeological digs are. I don't care about that. Just build me a house. I don't accept that. And Rick has been a legal, upstanding citizen of our community, helping our businesses. And I'm just asking that he takes 2 steps forward to ensure that what he's doing is legit and that it has the affirmation from the powers that be to do what it is before he does it. So I respect Rick. I appreciate what he's done. I just want him to take one more step to say, I've done my due diligence and this is legit. Holm, you raised your hand?
Yes, I did. And I'm still waiting for an answer to my question, which is why has code enforcement not acted against Bill Zimmer's property and Baby La Pen and a number of other businesses that have been in violation of our decisions from over a year ago. I've forgotten how long it's been, but it's been a very long time. So I think I'd like to get an answer to that question. Why has the county not acted? And I think in the end, unless we get county action to support the board, nothing's going to happen. And I kind of like the idea that Mark Kleiser suggested, that we not approve this application until the other violations have been rectified. I would vote in favor of that idea.
Planner Cherry, please.
If I may, through the chair.
Yes, please.
Thank you so much for a really good, deep conversation on this topic. It is a difficult topic because many of the business owners are tenants, and it is the property owner that's wholly responsible for compliance with our local codes and permits. Code enforcement has been out multiple times to this property and have asked the business owners to comply with our sign permits and our sign requirements. Last summer, I did a whole sweep on sandwich board signs with code enforcement. And it was very disheartening to, for example, talk with the owner of the country store and to explain to him about the outdoor display of merchandise and to explain to him about sandwich board signs. And he very agreeably pulled in the sandwich board sign. We went and walked the rest of the town and talked with other business owners about their signs. And as we came back to where we had parked in front of Frankie's, the sandwich board sign for country store was out in front. So it's very hard. Code enforcement comes out as they do have priorities and talk with the business owners and have had very rigorous conversations with Bill Zimmer about his property and being in compliance with permits. But there's been a demonstrated action of not being interested in being compliant. And the county code enforcement staff does face a lot of types of code compliance, including very serious public health and safety issues. A lot of our staffing really works to make sure that people live in a safe, habitable structure. And that's really our priority as a county in working with code enforcement. It is a reactive division. They don't proactively go after businesses that are not compliant, but we do work. And I was just looking over my notes as the review board was discussing all of this. And in mid-July, I had a phone message and I also had a business license application from Angela Burdick. And so she and I talked and I learned the story of how her business came to be where it is now. Her former location, she had a lease agreement and she explained to me that that landlord had changed the terms of the lease to where she could no longer do her business at that location. So she needed to find a new location to do business and she found it on Bill Zimmer's property. So she literally just 12 months ago applied for a business license at that other location. And now she's having to apply for a new business license and a new sign permit at the Bill Zimmer property, which is a huge expense to a business owner to do that twice within 12 months.
Can I clarify that she was approved for this sign at the other location?
She was approved for the sign at the other location. So she and I talked about her business license application and we went through the requirements because she was thinking of expanding her business to include some small retail in addition to the healing art services that are part of her business. So then the application for the business license, we processed that. And then on the 30th, 2 weeks later, she came in and dropped off her application for the sign permit. And I actually am the staff person who worked with her on that day as well. And we talked about the sign permit and I explained to her the difficulties that as staff I see with the Bill Zimmer property. She told me that Bill Zimmer had told her that she had approval for her sign at that location. And I said, that's not correct. And if you could please not put your sign out until after the review board has taken action, we would really appreciate it. It would really show some good faith, given the difficulties that we have with this particular property on the corner of Lansing and Ukiah Streets. So she heard what I had to say and applied for her sign permit. So that's July 30th. Then at the end of August, Mark Kleiser and I met with Rick Sachs to go over our recommendations on new conditions for signs. And Rick Sachs said to me, and I can understand this logic, that when he has a client who wants to put up a sign without an MHRB permit, he will not work with them unless they have already filed the paperwork. So they need to have filed an application for an MHRB permit before he'll temporarily put up the sign until the MHRB permit is issued. So he is very aware that some business owners are eager to have their signs up and he wants to be helpful, but he will not put up he said to me that he will not put up a sign until they've at least applied for an MHRB permit.
Planner Chair, I need to interrupt here. Your line, in my opinion, should be, you may not put up a sign until it is approved. Because once it's gone up, it's not going to come down. So
Yeah, I do agree with
and
you,
you-
and that would
You
be, yes, that is what we do tell people. And that is what I told Angela Burdick. Please do not put up your sign until after the MHRB has taken their action.
yeah,
So-
to Rick, and I respect him, and I love what he's done in this community. But the bottom line to Rick is, unless it's approved, it does not go up, because taking it down is not a reality. Please go ahead.
So I think the review board has a couple of choices. Obviously, they can approve the Nahara Healing Arts sign if they'd like to. They've previously approved it in another location. They can continue the matter and give some basis for continuing it. They can also deny the application if they would like to. I would suggest that you deny it without prejudice so that they can come back in less than a year. If you deny it with prejudice, there is a cooling off period of 12 months. And then also the review board can formally file a complaint on this property if they'd like. I do know that the priorities right now for code enforcement are very much focused on public health and safety. So I don't know that the town of Mendocino and commercial signs are going to be a large priority, but I think if the review board chose as a board to file a sign complaint about signs at this property, it would have much more voice than an individual filing a
Senator
complaint
Cherry?
about signs.
Planetary, if I may, through the board,
Yes.
Mark Kleiser. We have
Please.
John Burks here in the conference room with code enforcement who can elaborate on enforcing this case.
Yes,
hi,
please,
this is,
continue.
This is John Burks with County Code Enforcement. I'm a supervisor here in the unit, and I'm sorry I don't have the specifics, but I can certainly answer any questions or describe the enforcement process. It does sound like Planner Cherry does have a pretty good, concept of how we operate, obviously, because we work pretty close together. Are there any specifics or anything that I can shed some light on in terms of the process, or how can I be helpful?
Well, I think you can help. Really, the only help we need, as I understand it, is to actually enforce the code on this particular business owner for a sign that is up there which has not been approved by the board. I mean, that's the action that needs to be taken, because until something like that is done, this thing is just going to continue forever.
So I'm going to jump in, Board Member Saunders. Mendocino County is very large and has many issues. Health and safety are what needs to be addressed. What we have is not health and safety. What we have is inconvenience and irresponsibility and lack of respect. We have very few code enforcement officers, and we have more than they can grapple with. So the reality of actually having code enforcement take care of our issues, which are largely mundane in the sense that they're not going to affect people's lives. It's a disrespect. It's a desire to do what I want and not what I really need to follow, is likely not going to happen. And I think
I understand. And
you can probably read between the lines, but the problem is
I fully understand that. I fully understand that. But the
so
question
what
was, what can code enforcement do? And that is the only thing they can do. If we are very, very far down their priority list, I understand that and accept it, and I accept the other priorities are much more important. But the question was, what can he do? And that is the only thing he can do for us. And what can we do for ourselves? I don't know, because as you said, without that, we're toothless.
So I think we need a citation process that's going to be one-off, that's really easy. I think we need to approach Ted Williams and the Board of Supervisors and say, this is out of control. And we need to put some fines in place so that if you are not compliant, you may not have a business license. And this is not about the business itself, it's about the landlord who owns the businesses. I think we need to take this on head on to those who are the flagrant offenders. And I, as a small business owner, don't want to attack the small business owners. I want to go after the malignant perpetual offenders that don't care about us. And without that, we don't have a place in this town. I'm sorry I'm being harsh, but
No,
that's
I
reality.
agree with you. I agree with you. I'm just debating the approach, not the actual reality of what's going on.
I think it needs to be a change in code. I think it needs to be a penalty to those who are flagrant abusers. And it's not to punish our businesses, it's to punish the people who really don't give a flying, you know what, about our rules and regulations. And that's not the businesses, because we know the businesses really care. They want to oblige. We look at Nahara's Healing Arts and we go, you know what, I want my sign up, I want to do my business, I want to be here for everyone. I totally support that. I just don't want those offenders who aren't willing to play our game to be able to be here.
I agree with everything you said. We're debating the approach, not the problem, I think.
So
What is
let's
the right approach to the problem.
So I just want to,
think-
getting us back to the agenda item.
Yeah.
I do think that not, because I see Chair Roth wanting to make a moral stand on this sign
Yes.
permit, but I just want to clarify that not approving this sign permit will impact the business negatively. And I absolutely support what you had suggested, or what was just brought up, of moving forward with a citation process. I think that would be great. Specifically making sure that that happens to the landlords and not to the individual businesses, when in this instance, the businesses are the ones applying for the sign permit. And so this particular sign, which has been approved by this board before in a different location, I would hope that we could approve the sign and move forward with a citation process for this particular landowner, and working with our supervisor. I would hope that we could do that.
So Board Member Madrigal, the sign is up, the sign is permanent, it's not going anywhere. So opposing this application on the grounds that the landlord has not followed through with the regulations, with those findings, that gives a little bit of teeth into our argument. And that's my stance. And if you oppose it, I totally respect you.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree in the sense that they would then be in non-compliance. The business owner would be in non-compliance for their sign, which they are trying to get permitted. And so I want to strike that balance of moving forward with penalizing property owners that do not comply with the historical review board. I think that's how we continue to be a relevant organization. But the business owner, if that was the case, would have their sign up, but it would be a non-compliance. So it would basically be another violation, it would be another violation in the town when we're asking people to come forward and to be part of the process to be approved. So I just think it sends the wrong message to the business owner. That's why I will be voting in support.
And I appreciate that. I'm going to take a comment. Rick Sachs has his hand up, and then after he speaks, I will appreciate a motion from the board unless there's more discussion. So Rick, please speak your mind.
Well, I what I had wanted to say was what Juliana said, that I made it clear that I wasn't going to do anything until she submitted an application. And once the application was submitted and she put up her money, there have been numerous times over the years when temporary signs have gone up and somebody put in an application and said, this is what I want. So it was real clear that their intentions were honorable, that they wanted to be in compliance. And I've never seen a situation where something was denied and the sign still stayed up, and except for the things on this property that you're describing. I don't know if John Burks is still on the line, but I would wonder if the town of Mendocino generates enough money to have its own code enforcement official just for taking care of the things in Mendocino. I know when Angie was code enforcement and it got down to where that she was the only one in the whole county, she was having trouble keeping up with it, but she still did stuff there. And now I think there are 6 code enforcement officers, and none of them want to do anything in the town of Mendocino that isn't a health and safety violation. And personally, I just don't like seeing all the attention going to the marijuana industry and its violations. There are other things that generate money here, and the town of Mendocino is one of them. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. I appreciate your presence here, and you are a stalwart of our community, and we appreciate you. So please hang in there. Couple responses to that, and this is my own as chair. I guess I can do this. Angie's not here anymore. The issues of the county of Mendocino are much greater than our little township. However, we bring in a huge amount of TOT, transient occupancy tax, and business improvement district. It's 11% of hospitality. With hoteling being open, we support retail and we support restaurants. And if the township closes down due to code violations or water or fire or whatever, the rest of the county is going to lose a huge amount of resources. So as much resources we bring in to the rest of the county, we don't receive the same equivalent level of service, and that's not going to change. So code enforcement will be dedicated to cannabis, homelessness, domestic abuse, everything else that's going on. And it's not going to be us, the township of Mendocino. So that being said, we need to be taking care of ourselves. And I'm going to ask a formal request, and this is documented, which I've already said 2 or 3 times before, but just because an application has been put in, please, Rick Sachs, if someone asks you to do something, take the extra steps to find out whether it's been approved or not. And I'd be gratefully appreciative. I don't want to bring down Nashara Healing Arts. I don't want to bring down Angela Burdick. I'm going to get repercussions because I'm going to make an action and a vote that's going to be against my neighbor, Bill Zimmer, because he can't figure out how to ask for acceptance. Ask for the ability to do something instead of the apology of having done it. So my vote is going to be no against this. And that's not anything to do against Angela Burdick and Natasha Hilliard. I just need to put my foot down and say, enough is enough. And I know we have our limitations, but if we don't have any teeth and nobody's going to ask for permission, this is a waste of my time. So I'm asking you, Rick, to put an extra hour into your work. And when someone says, I want to contract with you to do this or that or the other thing, contact Planning and Building Services and say, has this permit been approved? Not just applied for, but approved by MHRB, because I'm holding you responsible for what's going on here. I'm holding everyone on the Zoom call responsible for what's going on here. And if we're not responsible, then we're worthless. So I'm imploring you all to step up to the plate. I'm sorry for going on and on about this. This has been a very long item on our agenda.
I'd
And
be happy to make a motion if you'd like.
Holly, please.
Yeah, and I do want to add in that, you know, Rick is not the only sign maker. There are other sign makers that businesses use. So I mean, we would in theory extend that.
Absolutely.
I would be interested in making a motion in approval of this sign permit for Naharu Massage, given the included exemptions. And just to reiterate that I'll be supporting that primarily because it's the applicant. It's the applicant who's applying for the sign permit, and I'm interested in encouraging compliance. And I, in addition, support moving forward with a citation process, because I think that Mendocino Village contributes a ton to the taxes of Mendocino County government, and that I think there's an interest on our 5th District representative in figuring out how to step up compliance. And I think that there is absolutely an interest in making that happen. So I would be happy to work forward with that. But I am in support of this sign for this business because I do think it will impact that applicant.
Board Member Madrigal, thank you for the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Planner Cherry, please take a
All
roll
right.
call.
Certainly. And just to confirm, that was Board Member Saunders who made the second?
Yep.
All right, thank you. So this is a motion to approve as with the recommended findings and conditions in the staff report. Board Member,
What was that?
I'm sorry, Board Member Kapler, what is your vote?
I didn't hear what the whole motion was.
The motion is to approve the sign permit from the Nahara Healing Arts with the findings and conditions in the staff report.
I'll vote no.
No. All
No.
right, Board Member Roth, what is your vote?
I'm opposing this, and I'm going to put a subset on this, and it has nothing to do with the applicant. It has everything to do with the public running over us as a policy agency, not complying with the rule of the adopted ordinances. So I have, my support is for the applicant. My opposition is for the application due to non-conformance to our ordinance. And I appreciate that in the notes, please.
I'm unclear about what that means. Where does this sign not conform to our ordinance?
This is done after the fact.
So what action should the business owner take to get approval?
the business owner doesn't have to take anything because it's already put up and it's not going to come down. And we have no teeth to tell them to take it down. And and I'm on record, I don't have any interest in having the applicant take it down. I have an interest in pushing back against the landlord who does not follow the rules.
So I would vote for the motion, but my caveat would be that somehow or another we pursue with the landlord and business owner the sign that already is out there that's up in non-compliance. We find a mechanism to do that.
Agreed.
So
And
we're, if I may, through the chair, we're in the middle of a vote. And when we conclude the vote, if another motion would like to be made, certainly the chair can consider that.
thank you.
So if I may continue with the vote to approve the project with the recommended findings and conditions, what is your vote, Board Member Saunders?
Yes.
And what is your vote, Board Member Madrigal?
Yes.
So we have a tied vote 2-2. It doesn't carry, we need a majority vote. So the options are, we can, if no other motions are made, it would be the effect of denying the permit. But if other motions are made, perhaps the board can find some agreement. If I may just take a moment, if you do deny the project, denying it with prejudice means that the application cannot come back as proposed today for a year. If you deny it without prejudice, the applicant can come back sooner than that.
So what is the impact? So this is, let me just say, this is why we need more board members. Because
Yes.
when there's a tie, it doesn't happen.
Yes.
But also if it, if it basically fails for lack of a majority vote, which is how the vote went, does the prevailing side need to say that it's without prejudice so they could come back if we come up with a solution? Or what's the default prejudicial level, if that makes sense?
How do we go forward?
Well, we would need a motion from a review board member, and if they chose to include in their motion that they are recommending to deny the project without prejudice, that would be something for the review board to consider. We need a motion and a second before we have a vote.
So can I get a clarification on the return to get the permit? Is that another permit fee that the business owner has to pay if they have to come back?
Yes, if a project is denied, the property owner, the applicant can certainly come back and apply again.
But it's another fee.
Yes, an entire application fee. The review board could also make a decision to continue the matter to another meeting if they'd like.
So as chair, I will make a motion to continue this item to the next month. And I would ask for, because staff does not have enough on their plate, board members to consider their thoughts about this larger problem of non-enforcement. I have no interest in harming the applicant. I don't want to go black eye on my face for the village, but I feel like I need to stand up or not be part of what we have here. So I will take the bold step to make a motion to continue this item until next month, at which point we need to figure out how to move forward with this flagrant disrespect of why we're here.
I would second that.
All right, so I have a motion and a second, and I'd like to clarify that we're not having an October meeting, so it would be continued to the November hearing.
That's fine because the sign's gonna be there regardless. We have no ability to remove it. We're not harming the business member. And if this skips a month because of lack of whatever, like I said, the business member is not gonna be harmed. It gives us more time to confer and think about how to make us relevant.
Great, so looking at my calendar, that would be the November 1st MHRB meeting. So if I may take a tally of votes, board
Board member Madrigal, are
member,
you still seconding?
Yes.
Thank you.
board member Kepler, what is your vote to continue the matter to November 2nd, 1st?
I'll vote aye.
Board member Saunders, what is your vote to continue the matter to November 1st?
Yes.
Board member Madrigal
Yes.
and the motion maker, board member Roth.
Yes, and thank you for your time and patience. I appreciate it. I'll get to you in a second. If I'm gonna be spending time out of my otherwise packed schedule, I don't want to be a pushover. I want to be able to be a part and parcel of the historic relevance of this township. So please, in the next 2 months, I know that we've got we got the Brown Act, so we can't talk in any more than a majority of us. But let's try to keep a dialogue open that is legal and give some thoughts as to how we can move this forward, because obviously we all care deeply about this issue. So I want to thank you for your extended time on this, and I am greatly grateful that I am part of this, would like to be, and respectfully appreciate not just your time, but the staff's time and moving forward on this. So thank you.
Ian,
Yes.
if I could just ask the staff, we're talking 2 months now. Would it be possible for you to put down a memo with some options for us that would help us to improve enforcement?
Granted.
You're muted, sorry.
I thought I was unmuting. Staff would be delighted to prepare a memo for the continued item of providing some options to the review board on this matter. We will also be sending a letter to the property owner this week, letting them know the review board's action, and we'll include in the letter many of the items discussed so that they have an understanding of why the matter was continued.
Thank you.
And a couple of notes, briefing notes about the discussion. I noticed that Rick has his hand up.
If I may, I just would
Yes.
like to point that the public discussion for this item was closed. And we do have a couple of more items on the agenda today. Perhaps Rick could save his comments for another opening when we have public expression. There is another sign.
May I ask if he can keep his comments to less than 30 seconds? Because I've pointed the gun at his head, so I want to make sure that we have a communication going. So Rick, please, for 30 seconds, no more.
I'd sure like it, Ian, if you and I could get together at a meeting with Ted Williams and talk to him about some of this stuff.
Yes, please.
And I'd like that, and I respect you and your decision, and I'm sure glad I'm not in the position of doing what you did.
Thank you. You can reach out to me at the Seagull Inn Bed and Breakfast. And if no other way, you can come by and get a card of mine, or yes, I would like to have a discussion with you, please. Okay, so with that, thank you everyone for indulging my rants and our board in our meaningfulness. And our next issue, oh geez,
It's another sign.
it's another sign. So here we go. I need to grab my glasses because I took them off because my brain's hurting.
I
Okay.
move approval of the sign with the
Can
conditions.
we, yeah, can we just
Thank you,
approve
Holly.
this?
I think it's going to be real quick and I won't even call for the 3 minutes. So this is a highlight gallery sign. We still have a couple of issues from staff. So this is a highlight gallery sign, Mendocino Square. Landlord for 6 feet. Basically, highlight gallery wants to put their sign up in the new location. So Planner Kleiser, can you give us any more information that we need to know?
Yes, Planner Kleiser here. The request is to install a 6 square foot double-faced wood sign. The sign request would be at the relocation of the previously approved sign for 45052 Main Street, and this would be located at the south end of the deck on Caston Street above the stairs and will hang below the balcony. Colors are pale blue and black, and the copy will read Highlight Gallery. The location is the Oddfellows Hall, which is listed as a Category 1 historic structure. The applicant also requested, well, not requested, but suggested that there would be a sign which is already in place that could be used as a historic marker about the building. I will share screen and show you what I am talking about.
Sounds good. Is there an recommended condition number 7 again?
Yes, there is. And I can
Ah.
share screen as well.
Yes, for the record, that'd be great.
Okay, let me go there first. So here is MHRB 2115, staff report, and conditions 6 and 7.
It's not showing on the screen.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think you
it's
might have to
not?
scroll down or
Oh,
something. Up.
let me share the different screen. 1
You're
second.
sharing a different screen, yeah.
Oh, shoot. Okay, here we go.
Yep,
You
there we
see that
go.
now, 6
There it
and
is.
7? Okay.
Yep.
And I will go back to the building. Okay, this would be the location of the new sign. Here is the sign that the applicant is suggesting be turned into a historic marker. And here's another view of it. This building has one entrance, so a second sign is not allowed. At this point, staff is suggesting that the applicant put a historic sign or a historic marker rather inside a window, as the other one is not allowed. And this,
Wait. Before he leaves that screen, can you go back, please?
for sure.
So there's the banner on the railing saying working artists.
This is not current. This was taken from Google Street View. I just wanted to get a shot of this sign. This is the one the applicant suggesting become a historic marker. Now, this isn't part of the application, but I just did want to bring it up because it is in the applicant's statement.
Okay, and if you move your cursor down to the right a little bit, there's the bulletin board thing.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
I am not aware of what that is. I will have to let the agent or applicant speak to that.
It's a bulletin board.
Yeah, okay.
And what information does it provide?
I'm not aware of what it provides. Apologize.
Board member Madrigal, do you know?
Postings. I mean, I think it's sort of a community bulletin board, not specifically for, and if the applicant's there, they could speak to it, but it's, yeah, like shows things around town.
Would that be considered a sign, staff?
I will defer to Planner Cherry on that one.
And I'm not trying to muzzle, I'm just trying to play an even field so that we treat everyone equally.
Yes.
I believe that you find bulletin boards for public notices in about 5 locations across town. We have looked at sign permits at those locations and have never really worried about bulletin boards. The bulletin boards, you can just simply go up and staple your announcement. For example, we staple the agenda by corners of the mouth on the fence there. And then there is around the corner on Lansing, another bulletin board where we post the agendas. But there are other bulletin boards in town, and perhaps this is one of them. I would say if this bulletin board does have glass and you have to ask permission of the suite occupant to be able to put something in the bulletin board, that I would consider more of a sign and falling into the sign requirements. But if it's just something where you can go and post your announcements on the bulletin board, I would let it be part of the community fabric.
As long as it's not in, thank you. As long as it's not internally illuminated, I've taken enough bullets for the day, and I'm happy to ignore that. And thank you for informing me. Appreciate it. It's been a long one. I thought this was going to be short.
I just have some clarifying questions from staff. So
Yes, please.
So they were interested in putting historical marker up there, so not for the second sign possibility. The image in the packet shows like a picture of the end of the building. Yeah. So this sort of shows that. No, wait.
Oh, well, that's the image. I'm sorry. Okay, and
this
the
one.
image would be, yeah.
Yes. So this shows a secondary sign, not a historical marker, but a highlight gallery sign. And then in the peak of the roof, that's a second. Where is the 6 foot sign suggested to go?
The sign will go right here. This is the sign the applicant's applying for.
6 foot
Oh,
square.
6 foot square. Got it. Okay. I was like,
Square, yes.
I don't think it's that big. Okay. If a historical marker sign would be, would enhance the building, I would be willing to consider that. Right. I mean, I don't really see that as signage for the building. It specifically says, like this is Oddfellows Hall and this is why it's cool.
I love that.
Yeah. So I would be open to allowing that and approving this sign, as their sign, the business sign.
Okay.
Okay.
Any further, that concludes my presentation. If there's more questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Planner Kleiser. I appreciate it. Let me see. Rick is here and he has his hand up.
If I may,
Yes,
just
please.
add some comments to staff's presentation.
Yes.
A business is allowed one sign when they have one entrance, and the review board really needs to consider whether a second sign is warranted when there is not a second entrance. What the applicant has not provided for the second sign is what the sign would look like, what is the content of the sign, what is the colors of the sign. They generally told us what the location might be and the intent. It isn't a placard with a year. We understand it would include some information about the history of the property. We don't know what that information would be. And we do consider it a second sign and subject to an MHRB permit.
They've already put in for this permit, so they've already paid for the application, right?
Right. But
So-
the code is quite clear, one sign with one entrance. So if they're really asking for an exception to have a second sign, and they also have yet to provide any details about what that second sign might contain.
So a continuance of this application to request for more information about the historical sign might be appropriate.
Or to consider whether a second sign is warranted at this location. The property owner could also, if they wanted to have some information about the history of the building, they could certainly put together something that they put in one of the windows of the building. 25% of the window can certainly be covered by a sign that's hung from the inside of the building.
I would support the application going forward just with the single sign that they had asked for, and I'd be happy to work towards approving that.
And if they wanted a second sign,
They could
Uh,
come back.
how would-
Mark
how would
Kleiser,
I just
If I may.
don't want, hold on half a second.
very well.
If they wanted to, and this is for board member Magical, if you're approving the single sign and they want to come back for a second historical sign, is that a second application, comma, staff, question mark?
Yeah, I think. That's,
I'm asking staff.
that's the problem as I see it. I mean, I think they're asking for one sign for the business and then one historical sign, but the historical sign, we just don't have enough information to approve that or disapprove it. So
And we can't,
if we continue to the next session, then we could approve both signs if we get more information on the historical sign.
that's what I was getting towards. The next board meeting is 2 months from now. Highlight galleries moved to new location. I think everyone gets their emails, and I think everyone's involved, informed. I don't want to hinder them, but I know that we have to do all or nothing. So we can't do an approval of the single sign and continue the historical sign. So I'm reaching out to my board members saying, what is your flavor of acceptance? I think it's to
And here, I
grant,
mean, really, it would be a question for the applicant, because I was thinking about it from they're in business now and would like to get the sign as soon as possible. Therefore, they would want it approved sooner, but really, we don't know if we don't know hear from them. Are they here?
Well, I mean, I know for a fact that they've got a big temporary sign up there, which is much more visible from Main Street than the blue sign that they're asking for. So I suppose they could wait.
If I may, Mark Kleiser, that.
yes, please.
That temporary sign does expire. It needs to be removed, I believe it's 20 days after installation. So that's going to run out. My suggestion would be.
And who's going to enforce that?
Don't go back there, Ian. Don't go back there.
Sorry, I just had to. Go ahead, please.
I know.
My suggestion would be to approve the sign now that is on the application. The historic sign, as I said earlier, was just suggested without any details on it. So there was nothing to really approve there. So I would suggest perhaps moving forward with the sign that has been applied for and then asking the applicant to come in with another application in the future to approve the historic sign if they wish to, with more detail.
And my concern is that that's a whole nother application fee. So
Yeah.
what I'd be more inclined to do, because we're just a rubber stamp, and I say that tongue in cheek and with all due respect to the other board members, because they all deserve that respect, is that we continue the application and do a wink and a nod in the sense that, and this is to Rick Sachs, even though I asked him to do something else, if they're interested in doing the highlight gallery sign, oh God, shoot me now, that we take up the historic sign at our next meeting in conjunction with the continued application for the sign they want to move that we all think we agree upon. And is that hypocritical or what?
I don't understand.
Could we put together a motion that said we approve the business sign, but we want to continue with the historical sign under the same application fee? Do we have that power to do that?
So Alan's kind of like an all or nothing, but staff, please tell me different.
So it is an all or nothing.
Tell me different, staff.
If I may, we do have sort of a sequence of how we handle things during the meeting. We have staff's presentation and then we have the applicant's presentation. we have discussion between the review board, and it's good that we're having discussion right now, but I believe Rick Sachs is representing the applicant and is available to provide some comments. And then once we hear from the applicant, we could proceed with some more discussion between the review board members or hearing some public comment.
Thank you, Planning Chair. I appreciate your ability to bring me back to process. So, Mr. Sachs, please talk your mind.
Thank
3
you,
minutes.
Juliana.
You're welcome.
As far as I think there's one entrance and we're applying for one business sign. The other structure is something that exists, and Highlight Gallery is willing to pay the money to have the existing sign have some historical input. And other than that, that thing has no value there. I have been in communication with Karen McGrath at our local museum, and she has given me a couple pages of history about that property. If the sign were approved, I would weed that down to a lesser volume that would be something that people could read and understand the value of the history of that property. As far as I can tell, the review board, what it says isn't, that's not your purview. It's the structure and the historical element that exists there. We would like to keep the sign right now has a background color that's the color of the building. It has a frame that's the color of the trim color of the building. It has an inset molding that's the color of the doors of the building. And I'd want to keep it that way and just put some black text on there that says this is what the building was, when it was built, what it was used for, and when it was remodeled, and not have too much copy on there. And it's similar to like what's in front of the savings bank, where there's a marker there that has some of the history of that building, and it's not considered one of their signs.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that. That sounds very simple, very easy. I'm not, we've been here for a while.
Yeah.
I don't think we need, if someone put in for public hearing, I don't think we have any. So I'm willing to be less transparent in the state of actually getting through this agenda. So board members, your thoughts?
Well, I'd still like to get an answer to the question that you asked, which is, can we approve the business sign and then postpone the consideration of the historic sign until the next session?
Planner Cherry?
If I may, through the chair, and I apologize, I wasn't clear on that.
Can we do one
the simple
piece?
The simple
Can we do-
answer is no, you cannot bifurcate an approval and a pending approval. Also, the ordinance is quite clear when one sign is allowed at this particular location, and the review board would need to deliberate on whether 2 signs is warranted, and they want to grant that exception and the meaning of deviating from the standards moving forward. Also, we don't have an example of what that sign would look like for the review board to consider today. And while the historic markers are exempt from being under the sign ordinance, they are not exempt from MHRB permits. You do need an MHRB permit for a historic marker. I don't believe that what Rick Sachs is describing is a historic marker. I believe it is a second sign The purpose of the sign is to describe the history of the site, that it is still a sign. So we're kind of at a point where they've applied to have one sign at the property for the highlight gallery and have asked for permission to have a second sign, but have not provided any specificity about that sign. The review board needs to take an action. The options are to approve, as recommended in the staff report, the sign for the highlight gallery. You could take an action to deny the application, and you can also take an action to continue the matter in its entirety to November, giving time for the applicant to clarify their intent for the second sign so that the review board could consider two signs at this property in November.
I
So
would be interested in making a motion to approve the 6-foot business sign that the applicant applied for and not taking an action on the second sign because we don't have the information for it. I mean, they were aware that this was coming before us today, so it's my hope that they were interested in it moving forward. And that we don't have the information to make a decision on the other sign. And so in fact, that would need to be another, if they choose to move forward with it, they'd have to go through the process for that second sign. But I would like to move the approval of the one sign with the conditions listed.
So board member Madrigal, just saying, as a chair, that's gonna require the applicant, highlight gallery, to file a new application at the cost of $600 to $700.
If they want to have another informational sign, which the historical review historical marker is not one of those signs, but they would have to bring a historical marker forward for approval. So yes.
I have a clarification question maybe you can help me with. Are all the historical markers actually signs, or are they things that are pinned plaques to the sides of the building? Because a historical marker looking like a business sign is something that's a little strange to me. I mean, I would expect them to put a plaque on the side of the building as opposed to hang a sign from a walkway.
So I think the differentiation, and I own the Siegel Inn, which is built by the Switzer family in 1883. I do not have one of those historical plaques. I've been trying to track down where to find one, and I'd love to do it. I don't think that's a sign, but I think what Highlight Gallery wants to do is give an historical perspective in terms of writing about why the building's there, where it's been, the history of it, which is a little more than just a plaque that says it was built in 1872.
Yeah, I mean, but some of those plaques do contain a lot of information. I've seen them around the country, you know. So I'm just asking the question: is it appropriate to hang a historical document like a business sign as opposed to pinning it to the side of the wall?
Not without approval from us.
Well,
and
no,
I would like to suggest that this board could consider, if the applicant came up with for the public good, this is not about our business, this is an informational sign about historical character of Mendocino County and the Oddfellows Hall in particular, that we might be within our rights to have the discussion of what that looks like and potentially waive the fee.
Totally agreed, but it needs to be presented, and fees are not anything of our purview. And Holly, I'm sorry, but seriously.
No, I mean, I'm trying to come up with a way to meet the business needs of this business.
I totally agree. We've been over fees time and time again for the 3 years I've been on the board. And I think that the fee to oppose and appeal a decision that's $1,600+ is totally ridiculous. But that's not our purview. It's part of the Board of Supervisors. So is the fee to put an application in. So I agree with your premise. I agree with your desire. I agree with what you're bringing forth, have no control. We don't.
Technically, we do not have we don't have the ability to designate the rates of the fee. That is correct. We do not, as a board, have that ability. That's all Board of Supervisors. But I would put the question to staff whether or not
Yes.
we could,
Waive the
for a
fee.
public wellness, waive the fee, public wellness, public whatever. And if this board would prefer to postpone this until October, that's fine. I'd be interested in moving forward, but they had this application on here, and it's going to be some time before we're going to be able to see it again.
They are deserving. They are a place in our history. They've done great business. We want to make sure that they are solvent and they move forward. We want to support their business. I'm just trying to figure out as a board how we can do that and support their application without dinging them on everything else. So I guess staff, the question is, can we approve this application? And if they come back with another application for an historic plaque that talks about the history of their building, may we waive the fee for that application?
I would very much like to answer that question. I do,
Please.
though, note that we have a motion on the floor and we have shifted into discussion rather than determining whether there will be a second for the motion. Is this motion failing for a lack of a second, or and if so, are we moving back to discussion? It's unclear to me.
I just think we need a clarification, because I think the majority of the board wants to move in a direction.
Right, I understand that, Ian. You have a motion on the floor and we're looking for a second before we can have more discussion.
So I would move that, I can't move. I would suggest that we remove the motion so that we can have a little more discussion to find out if we can defer the fees for another application.
So that would be something for the motion maker to decide.
I'm happy to withdraw the motion.
Thank you. So if I may, through the chair, now that the motion to approve the project has been withdrawn, I'd like to answer some questions that I'm hearing under discussion.
Yes,
One
please.
is, we do not have authority to waive fees, nor does the review board have authority to waive fees. I'd like to also answer the question about the signed plaque, an historic plaque. The historic plaque is covered under our sign chapter, which is chapter 20.712 in section 20.712.025A4. And this section of the sign code talks about exemptions from signs. And it says that house numbers, historical markers not exceeding 1 square foot, for example, the Blair House 1880, provided that the house or building number sign that is visible from each adjacent street, alley, road, shall be affixed to each exterior wall that fronts the street, alley, or road. So a 1 square foot historic placard is exempt from being considered a sign. What is being proposed is not a 1 square foot placard that says the Oddfellows Hole with a year. It is a sign. And when we go over to the chapter 20.760, which is what gives authority to the review board, and we look at exemptions and sign exemptions specifically, historic placards are not exempt from MHRB, and signs are not exempt from MHRB. So if they want to have a sign describing the history of the property, they need to include that in their application. And we had talked with the applicant about this a few weeks ago, and we talked about it with them this morning. It sounds to me that the applicant is interested in having the highlight gallery. And finally, I would like to say that the current sign fee, I believe, is $450. I think that answers most of the questions.
Yeah, you said that the applicant is, say again, the applicant is interested in having the
highlight gallery sign. That is what they've applied for. And they really haven't provided any additional information to staff so that we can present it to the review board about the second sign.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
I think representing my client, I'd be happy to, what we want is the highlight sign up there. The other sign is a gift to the community. And I think they do just fine with not giving that gift to the community.
I'd be happy to work on a fundraising effort. If it's
they're not going to pay for another application.
I didn't think so. So I think the interest in Board Member Magical, I totally respect where you're coming from. And I want to get that sign up for Highlight Gallery because I love them and they do a beautiful business. I want them to succeed, and I want to, as our board, our mission is to educate the local and population visits us about the historical meaningness of our town village. I would be totally in favor of supporting processing and approving this application. And I would also be in favor, and I would be in supportive and helpful with you to create a fundraising campaign, to put another application in for the historic information that would require an additional MHRB permit. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but yes, it does. Someone would need to make a new motion to accept the permit for this
I
one.
think we can just represent your
Original motion.
original motion.
I move we approve the sign permit for just the Highlight Gallery sign with the conditions provided. Highlight Gallery.
And with the provision that we would like to support them in putting another application that would be fundraised for the historical information on the building.
Sure. Oh, so, Julia's waving her head. I think that is in the record. I think we have voiced our support of that. And I will just limit my motion to approving this sign. I'm getting looks from Planner Jerry.
Is there a second?
I will second that, and also willing to contribute money for a historical sign.
There we go.
All right. All
Planner
right, so
Cherry,
we
take a
have
roll
a
call.
motion and a second to approve the Highlight Gallery sign with the findings and conditions as recommended in the staff report. Board Member Roth, what is your vote?
Aye.
Board Member Kapler, what is your vote?
Aye.
And Board Member Saunders?
Aye.
And Board Member Magical?
Aye.
Thank you. So I see that motion to approve the sign 4-0 is approved unanimously. I want to thank you all for your votes and your sincere support of having information, not only the commercial sign, but the historic sign. I would like to say that you want to be careful with your conflicts of interest and how you support things within the community. If you work towards fundraising for something in town and it comes before the review board, you might not, you might find yourself needing to recuse yourself from that effort.
Good point. Thank you.
Thank you for the information. Thank you all for your great discussions. My, this has been quite the meeting. And be remiss.
We'll have to leave at like 6.
Yeah, we're gonna be done before then. And just be grateful that we can take a month off. So thank you all for your great thoughts. I respect and appreciate all of you, and so does the community. So agenda number 10A, reports from review board members. Who do we have from the board that wants to speak up?
I'm not going to be popular for this, but just a quick thing. At our July meeting, the staff undertook to meet with local architects and discuss potential revisions to the allowed use of exterior building materials. To me, this sort of impacts on the question of the use of aluminum windows, et cetera. And I'm wondering if the staff, I don't know what's happened to that study at all, or those meetings. But also, I'm wondering if for the next time, or when we get to the question of the windows again later this year, we could have the staff look into what other historic districts have done vis-a-vis metal windows and doors, so that we can have some idea of what's being done in the country on this, and not just focus on what we're doing here.
Board Member Kapler, thank you for your interest. If you have research that you come upon, can you please share it with county staff?
Sure.
Thank
So
you.
if I may, through the chair, Board Member
Yes.
Kapler, I have briefly talked on the phone with a couple of architects to see if they would like to meet and confer with staff, but we haven't settled on a date. And certainly I have worked in 3 other historic districts, so I can certainly work with my colleagues to come up with a memo describing what other historic districts do. I can also contact some historic districts that I haven't worked with that may give some guidance as well.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that.
Thanks, Planner Chair. I appreciate that. Board Member Sanders?
No, nothing from me. I think I've said enough.
What? Haven't we all? Board Member Madrigal before 6 o'clock?
Just that I have had extensive conversations with both Supervisor Williams as well as Ed O'Brien about the enforcement problem. And they've got some creative ideas on how they think we could make some headway on that. So I'm certainly supportive of figuring out ways in which we could do that. And I know that Supervisor Williams is willing to do like a monthly walk around, or, like they certainly, both of those gentlemen are very interested in helping us figure out this problem.
We have great support from our supervisors. We are full of gratitude for their support, and really appreciate all we can get from everyone. And I know we're going to hit matters from staff in a second, but I just want to give my gratitude to my other board members, because without you, I wouldn't have any reason to be here. And I appreciate all the discussions we've had today, and I apologize for the lengthiness of them, and staff that has supported us. It's incredible. You guys are awesome. So I'll shut up and I'll go to agenda item 11A, matters from staff. So
If I may, before we move on to
Yes,
the
please.
next agenda item, I would like to address the comments from Board Member Madrigal. Staff would be very supportive if you are meeting with Williams and O'Brien and you would like staff to participate in that. I would be happy to arrange for code enforcement to be part of that discussion, or even myself. We can do the meeting via Zoom if you'd like, or we can meet outside of the picnic table at Planning and Building Services in Fort Bragg. Just let us know how we can be in support of your efforts there.
And please keep me posted.
Absolutely. And I think that you guys are probably gonna talk in this window, like I think we all need to do our personal research and there's Brown Act stuff, but I think you guys will probably be talking. I've shared some views with them, so I'm sure you guys will be talking between now and our meeting in November.
Thank you. So matters from staff. That'd be Planner Cherry, I think.
Sorry, Mark Kleiser, Planner 2. Sorry, I was muted.
That's all right, thank you.
I'll address item 11A, expiration of Board of Supervisors Ordinance 4472. At the July 17th and August 2nd meetings, the review board inquired as to when permission for tents and outdoor activities during the COVID crisis will lapse. Ordinance 4472 does allow for these temporary modifications to businesses. The urgency ordinance will, quote, remain in effect until 30 days after expiration or termination of social distancing requirements, or until the ordinance is modified or revoked by the Board of Supervisors, whichever is sooner. And though the state has fully reopened on June 15th of this year, the county is allowed to be more restrictive. And on August 12th of this year, the county health officer issued an order that continues to allow for temporary modifications to businesses, which includes outdoor tents. When ordinance 4472 does expire, businesses will have 90 days after the ordinance to remove temporary modifications and restore outdoor areas to their previous conditions, or at that time, they must apply for retentions of these modifications on a permanent basis. That addresses the tents. Are there any questions?
Do we have any indication as to when that might occur, or is it just a desire of the board?
I think at this time, the board is following the health orders
Of the state?
of the county.
And do we have any indication what that's going to provide?
Staff does not. I do not at this time.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to water tanks. Ordinance 4474 does allow for temporary installation of these water tanks. And on April 20th, the Board of Supervisors did declare a local emergency due to the drought conditions. Additionally, on May 3rd, the Mendocino Community Services District declared a stage 4 water shortage emergency. This ordinance does allow for the installation of water tanks with a capacity not greater than 5,000 gallons, and the ordinance does remain in effect until expiration or termination of the county's declared local emergency, or until it is modified or revoked by the Board of Supervisors, again, whichever comes sooner. And similar to the, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, similar to the temporary outdoor modifications, the tanks must be removed within 30 days of the ordinance expiring, and the site must be restored to its prior condition, or the resident must apply for retention of these modifications on a permanent basis.
And again, do we have any indication as to when this emergency is going to be revoked?
At this time, no.
Thank you. Please
Okay.
continue.
And that's moving on to item 11B, and that's additional information about the temporary use of porta potties. So ordinance 4472, though it's not called out specifically, does indicate that porta potties are allowed as part of temporary outdoor modifications, and these fall under the definitions in the ordinance 4472 of temporary modification, temporary outdoor area, and temporary structures. Staff did reach out to environmental health to see if there are any special requirements for the use of porta potties, and there are not. And staff does feel that as long as a business has a will serve agreement with the company that is providing the porta potty, and that they can show they can maintain it, the use of the porta potty for the business is then in compliance.
And again, do we have any indication when this might be removed?
No, this would be when ordinance 4472 is revoked or modified for the Board of Supervisors.
Got it. Staff, you guys are amazing. Totally appreciate you. Board members, same thing. Appreciate your time. We've gone through our entire agenda. 11B matters from staff. We're at number 12, adjournment. Any other questions, comments? I see Planner Sherry raising her hand.
Yes, early, I apologize. I'm going to be super brief. At the beginning of the meeting, we had talked about public comments, and I just wanted to wrap around under matters from staff to go over the public comments. We do include in all of our notices how the public can participate in the Zoom meeting format. We do welcome their comments and encourage them. We contact the applicants and let them know. I think today was a really great example of how public comments were received by email in advance of considering one of the items, the first item on the agenda, the single family home. Everyone who wants to participate in the public process is under the same requirements, which makes the process fair for everyone. I know it's a little awkward and unfamiliar, but that is how we're rolling these days, with people before 10 a.m. contacting the review board and asking to speak at the meeting. We send them an invitation so that they can do so. And we do take that 3-minute pause. If you'd like to have any adjustments to how we do that, if you could email me some suggestions, I'd be happy to see if we can incorporate them in the November meeting.
And your email is?
You can certainly reach us at pbscommissions@mendocinocounty.org.
And I just want to reiterate that we couldn't do this without our staff from Mendocino County. Totally respect you, appreciate you. Thank you, Planner Cherry and other planners. My fellow board members, you guys are rock stars. And our public that calls in, this is what makes it work. So been a long discussion this evening, and I appreciate your involvement and hope to work through these issues with you. I appreciate you giving me the chair, and I respect all of you. So thank you much for your leadership. Carry on and enjoy October off. We'll see you in
Thank
November.
you.
Thank you.
And the time of adjournment, please.
I think it's 5:54. Do I need a motion for adjourning?
No, but you do just need to state what time you're adjourning the meeting.
So I'm making the motion. I'm calling this meeting to end at 5:54 on Monday, September 13th. Thank you everyone for your participation. Stay clear and have a great time and take care of our community. Love you guys all.
All right.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Thank you.